we have to be prepared at a moment's notice, and thankfully our crews were ready to do that and engaged absolutely when needed to, and were incredibly professional and successful in what they were doing yesterday. Having said that, we did not get an overnight mapping mission like we had hoped, and so we're still reporting about 13,000 acres, fully aware that the fire is larger than that. I always hate to guesstimate because guesstimates from the ground can be different, but we do have a mapping mission up right now with aircraft to be able to get some more accurate mapping. So we are still 13,000 acres plus and 0% contained at this time. More crews are on their way. We're getting some fills for some ground crews, which will be incredibly helpful on this southeastern perimeter closest to the Franklin Canyon and the corridor there. With that, I'll open it up to questions.
Any changes to the evacuation orders in place?
There are no changes as of last night to the evacuation orders. If anyone has any questions with that, the most recent one is, I think, 3 posts scrolling on Utah Fire Info, or you can always go to Wasatch County and Summit County. The most accurate ones are in there, but we did not have any changes overnight, thankfully.
The shelters themselves for evacuations, any changes there?
There is a shelter in Colville at this time. It's over at the community church on Main Street, so people are welcome to go to the evacuation center there if needed. And there also were discussions of setting up one further south. Obviously, areas of Colville, if the fire continues to progress south, things would change. So we are working really closely with the emergency managers on that evacuation center and shelter status.
With the weather, do you expect anything different throughout the rest of the day?
We likely will continue to see what we saw yesterday is probably large fire growth. Thankfully, there's a lot of black around most of the fire, which will help quite a bit. Yesterday, it was in conditions that and in areas that there wasn't line around, or honestly, in some of the areas, there was dozer line and hand line, and like we're seeing on other fires, it was just spotting over our lines. So there likely will be growth today. As much as we're going to work to prevent that, it likely is to happen. And then as of right now, it's really calm and cool, but by midday, the winds are supposed to pick up and the storms are going to be in, and we're going to be dealing with those high winds that we saw yesterday, both up on the mountain and down here in the valley.
And then fire crews are dealing with back-to-back-to-back fires, tons of fires going on right now. How are you guys handling things with all the fires?
Yeah, it's been a long summer already. Normally August is actually when Utah starts to get really busy with fire, and we're already a couple months in of a heavy fire season. And thankfully, we do a good job of making sure people and crews are taking time off when they get home, disengaging, and rotating days off. That's some of why resources or teams can get delayed, is because we want to make sure we're not burning our people out. Our team itself, the Northern Utah team, has had quite a few back-to-back fires, and making sure we're getting home in between those and taking care of each other. And honestly, one of the biggest things is the group camaraderie that we have of we're a team. And honestly, there was a lot of positive emotion last night as we were able to hold East Canyon Reservoir. I'll get a little personal here. My brother was the ranger at East Canyon for a handful of years and lived at the house at the top of the ridge there. And to be able to hold that at a place that was home to my family was really beautiful, and we're really proud of what we did yesterday.
All right, that was for the Forestry Department fire spokesperson Sierra Hellstrom updating us on the Rocky Canyon fire. We're going to continue to follow the updates, and we'll bring those to you here on KSL News Radio as it develops. Now it's time for a check of emergency traffic on KSL News Radio, brought to you by UCCU. You deserve to love where you bank. Let's get an update with Cormac Bone.
It is southbound through Davis County, especially on Legacy Highway, where that crash is still blocking all but only one left lane. And really, they're using the shoulder to get around there. So it's stop-and-go traffic from Park Lane in Farmington all the way down past Parish Lane in Centerville. I-15 also affected by that backup as drivers avoid the slowdowns on Legacy. And it's a little slow transitioning from the West Davis corridor onto I-15 and Legacy as well. Otherwise, though, roadway's looking really good. Northbound I-15, just a little bit of slowdowns left over in Salt Lake from the I-80-201 interchange up to 13th South. I'm Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio. Utah Fire Watch.
So we just got an update about the Rocky Canyon fire, and Greg, over the weekend. So this just started. I know you saw it, but there was an evacuation alert mistakenly sent out to a much larger audience than was supposed to get one.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, but we just heard from Sierra Hellstrom. She's the public information officer for the Northern Utah Interagency Incident Management Team, talking to us about that fire. And you're exactly right, Holly. We were driving from our home in Eden to Park City, and saw the fire, and I was trying to guess where it was. I thought, it looks like East Canyon just from my cycling up there, sort of south and west a little bit of Morgan, but it was the Rocky Canyon fire, and it's burned some 13,000 acres.
Yeah, it's one of the things. I think it just exploded. Just so quickly, and I think with the high winds, 50 miles an hour gusts, those types of things, some of the pictures are just so apocalyptic, right? but being told you need to evacuate and go right now and have it be a mistake, that's pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah, and it was kind of a weird group of people around northern Utah. Even Evanston, Wyoming received alert on their phones, which said to evacuate now. It didn't say why or where to go. It turns out it was a mistake, a technical glitch, but that would have been a heck of a thing to get on your phone.
Right.
Hey, you got incident, a fire in your area. You need to evacuate. Like, whoa. And you're looking out the window thinking, what fire?
I'm trying. Yeah, exactly. And I've tried to see if we can tell like what happened. I haven't been able to track down anything other than to say it was a technical glitch, but no more detail than that. So I wonder, like, if you got that and you were home in Eden, would you immediately jump in your car to go, or would you try to verify the information first?
I think I'd at least look out the window. Summit County authorities said at this time only residents between the Summit County line at Hogback Summit and West Hennifer Road are under evacuation. The rest of the town of Hennifer is in ready status, which is, they have that ready, set, go. So they're still under some level of alert, but only that back area there between Hogback and West Hennifer Road are under evacuation orders right now.
So it's interesting that even some people in Salt Lake County got that notification. And, of course, Salt Lake Valley Emergency Communications Center said there is no evacuation notice going out to the public from Salt Lake Valley. Uinta County got one as well. Duchesne, Fort Duchesne, and White Rock. South Weber got some. I don't know what happened here.
Oh, but it went out. It was a huge blast to a lot of people, and I'm sure people were like going, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
I'm sure that the EMS system, 911, was getting blasted with calls, and hopefully people were getting some reconciliation, saying, "Hey, wait a minute, that was a false alarm. Don't do anything yet." Of course, you don't know who's in the line of fire, literally or not, in something like this. And there was an evacuation order that's still in place, as I should say, at West Hennifer Road area and Hogback Summit.
There's actually 2 evacuation orders. This is at least according to our own KSL article. So earlier in the day, from White's Crossing to East Canyon Dam, those people had to be evacuated. Then the second evacuation order was the West Hennifer, between Hogback Summit County to West Hennifer Road. So
it was quite a plume of smoke. I mean, we were going eastbound on 84 Saturday afternoon and just saw this huge plume of smoke. We got some interesting pictures of it, and just watching it blow over, it was something to behold. And I thought that has to be a huge fire. 13,000 acres is big. It was very close to East Canyon, which I think must have been helpful for the fire crews to be able to access that water source to pour water on the fire, if that's what they did, because that would have been right near where it was. We don't know much about the source of the fire or anything else.
I thought I heard her say, well, maybe I didn't hear her. Maybe I heard it on the morning news that they think it's human caused.
Yeah, well, that would be a safe guess for most of the fires in Utah, seemingly, or at least half of them.
Well, now we're at the halfway point, so I guess that's getting better. So, look, we're going to have more information on fires, but I wanted to note also that we have passed the 500,000 acre mark in Utah. It's only the second time we've done that, but in Utah, we've burned over 500,000 acres.
And that's the second largest year of fire damage we almost certainly will set a record this year.
Yeah.
We're over at 500,000 right now, and we're just second week of August.
Well, and we just heard this PIO say August is usually the time that we start to see wildfires. We're going into August with huge fires already under our belt, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, and that was another one that we just didn't need. I mean, there's never a weekend when we come back on Monday when we don't have a larger number of both fires and acreage burned.
I know.
And just the fire crews must just be at their wits' end, and the local counties, some of the sheriffs, like what's going to happen next? I mean, it's just awful what they're going through. Well, while the high winds continue to fuel the Rocky Canyon fire just east of Salt Lake City, which we just talked about, the Widemouth 2 fire near Fillmore has now burned, like you say, Holly, more than 111,000 acres.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Fires have burned more than 500,000 across the state, all, like you said, for the second time ever. More Firewatch coverage when we come back on Inside Sources after this.
This is Utah tax attorney Jordan Wilcox. Don't wait. End your tax nightmare now.
So I needed a tax attorney because of my outstanding balance. It was like $59K. I got the letter from the IRS stating that we could seize your house. And my son lives with me and he's also on the house. You know, I didn't take those threats lightly. As a mom, I'm like, yeah, you're not going to take my kids' stuff. So I did find Jordan Wilcox and I decided to give him a call.
Let us fight the IRS for you.
So the IRS, I owe them $59,000 and my settlement was $560. I actually cried. I felt like the weight of the world came off my shoulders.
This is Utah tax attorney Jordan Wilcox. Let's solve your IRS nightmare. Visit endtaxworry.com. endtaxworry.com.
The Children's Center Utah provides a unique service in our communities by meeting the needs of very young children and their caregivers. Here's a Little Minds Big Hope message from Dr. Kyle Smith, the Children's Center Utah's child and adolescent psychiatrist.
Did you know that extreme separation anxiety can be more than just a phase? For some children, it may be a sign of deeper stress or them being overwhelmed by their emotions. Find out more at childrencenterutah.org.
Breaking news doesn't wait, and neither should you. Get immediate news alerts anytime news breaks. Download the KSL News Radio app for free for breaking push alerts on your phone or subscribe to our breaking news text line. Just text news to 57500 to get started. KSL News Radio, your home for breaking news.
Hi, how can I help?
Well, my husband and I feel like we've outgrown our current money manager.
I see.
Our lives have changed, and we need something more than just mutual funds to help us in retirement.
She's right.
I hear that often. At Fisher Investments, we'd start by getting to know you, your finances, family, health, lifestyle. We tailor a portfolio around your goals and needs.
Sounds good.
Can you help with estate planning?
Yes. We have a team of specialists who can help you with estate planning, Social Security, investment income, and more. We'll get to know your whole financial picture and help keep you on the path to a comfortable retirement.
And your fees?
We have a simple, transparent fee that's a percentage of the value of your portfolio. So we do better when you do better.
I feel better already.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com/different. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Some of the most meaningful jewelry is the jewelry we never wear. It sits tucked away in a drawer. A ring from a grandmother, a pendant from years gone by. Pieces filled with stories, but not part of your everyday life. Duke's Jewelers believes those pieces deserve more. For over 75 years, Duke's Jewelers has helped families reimagine heirloom jewelry, transforming what once was into something you'll love wearing today and pass down tomorrow. Whether it's resetting a stone, redesigning a ring, or creating something entirely new, Duke's Jewelers will guide you through every step, right there in the store. And if you have jewelry that no longer fits your story, Duke's Jewelers also buys gold, offering a simple, transparent way to turn it into something meaningful again. Bring in what you have and create something you'll never want to take off. Duke's Jewelers on Main Street in Springville, where your story continues.
Hey, honey, I was thinking about updating the house a little.
A little?
You know, new siding, new windows, gutters that actually work, maybe even a new deck.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, I called RGS Exteriors.
Well, that's a good decision.
When it comes to upgrading your home's exterior, the right choice is easy. RGS Exteriors specializes in siding, windows, gutters, and decking that transform the look and protection of your home.
Hi, Tim Brown, RGS Exteriors. My family has been building and improving homes in Utah for 5 generations, and taking care of homeowners is something we take very serious. With over 1,300 5-star Google reviews, 21 Best of State awards, and our 10-year workmanship warranty, homeowners know they can trust RGS. Over 200,000 families across Utah have trusted RGS Exteriors with their home, and so can you. Schedule your free estimate today at 801-280-3110, 801-280-3110.
911, tell me exactly what happened.
My son and his wife and their 2 children haven't responded.
Susan Powell disappeared on a snowy morning in 2009.
Your wife is missing, Josh.
Yeah, but
And you want to think about it for a couple of days?
The podcast, Cold, has gone deep on these kinds of stories.
I'd had this overwhelming feeling that he had done something to her already.
Clearly, something happened on that couch because he cleaned it.
Find and follow Cold wherever you get your podcasts.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
Well, there was an absolute tragedy in Millard County this weekend. The Widemouth 2 fire has now claimed the lives of 2 helicopter pilots who were involved in fighting that fire.
So the helicopter crashed on Friday, but steep terrain and the ongoing fire, in fact, I saw a description of it as an angry fire, made it difficult to recover their bodies. But on Saturday, rescue crews were able to get into that area and retrieve them, and their remains have now been taken to the state medical examiner's office.
Yeah, and it was interesting because they had observed that the ship had crashed. It was a Sikorsky helicopter, and they couldn't get to the pilots because of the danger there. They had to wait, and they finally did. Of course, there were no survivors, but while these fires across the state are setting records for the number of acres burned, we also have to remember the cost of the lives, the people whose homes and property have been destroyed, and the lives of several people now who have died in these fires.
Yeah, I think the count is up to 6 now, if with the 4 who passed away in the fire over on the border near Colorado. But look, that part is just tragic, and I was reading several articles about it over the weekend and this morning, and the Sevier County Sheriff was talking about how hard it was to get in there and the decision, right? So they could see 2 plumes of smoke, one from the crash and one from the fire. And within 30 minutes, the wall of fire was such that they couldn't even pass it. And they're like, we've got to pull back or we're going to lose more people.
Yeah, it happened, it looks like Friday, about 10:30 a.m. near the Widemouth 2 fire, and it was actually near Richfield. We've heard that it's in Millard County, but they're bordering each other. And again, like you say, due to the conditions at the scene, and it was sort of a treacherous area, just geographically, let alone the fire itself. Right. They just couldn't get people there. The sheriff had to make a decision to not send crews in to do rescue work at that point until they could get them in there safely, which they ultimately did.
I just think this year has just been crazy, it feels like, for fires. And I know that we're number 2. There was one year that was worse, but it's bad.
Yeah. The Sevier County Sheriff, Nathan Curtis, described the area. It said it was over 7,000 feet in elevation, so it's a pretty hilly area. He said it's steep, a lot of brush in there, a lot of trees, and then crews had to get in there with their own apparatus trying to get to the wreck scene
site,
and see if they could save anyone. But by that time, I'm sure the crash was horrific all by itself.
Yeah. So we know, we mentioned this just briefly at the end of the last segment, that we're now at over 500,000 acres. It's 500,000 acres. Maybe this week's rain-ish in the forecast might help with that. But I'll tell you, there was supposed to be rain yesterday. We maybe got 3 drops. So I don't think that 3 drops of rain is going to help that much.
Yeah, so it was only a matter of time before we got to 500,000 acres. I don't know how many total fires there have been, probably 7 or 800, yeah, which again, we're hoping, and we probably should have talked to somebody from the Weather Bureau, that the monsoons could help this activity, but right now we could use any moisture at all in some of these fires.
Right. So,
and like you said, we're the second week of August.
Yeah.
This fire season historically is about now.
Right.
So it's not going to get better.
No.
I mean, we're in for some real problems.
So 2007 was the other time where more than 500,000 acres burned in 1 year, and it was at 629,000. I agree with you that we may surpass that this year.
That point. That's another 100,000 acres, but at the rate we're going, that's sad. And then anytime you have the loss of life, I mean, these people know that they're going into a dangerous situation, and those pilots, I mean, I watch what they do when they're taking those buckets down into the water and, trying to drop things on an area. They're also negotiating the steep hills, the canyons, with whatever they can. It was a helicopter. I'm sure that the pilots were skilled in every way possible.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, you might get into a point where the smoke is so bad that you lose all your sense of direction. Who knows what happened? And I don't even mean to guess, and I don't pretend to, but the cause of the fire the wreck is certainly under investigation.
I want to give you some other details as well about this Widemouth fire. So it's 111,000 plus acres right now. One of the things that's interesting, and this is a KSL article, but nearly a quarter of the state's acreage that has burned this year has come within the last 10 days. And that was after the first round of monsoon moisture, after it ended. So Tony DeMasters, he's incident commander for the Great Basin Team 2, currently overseeing the Widemouth 2 fire, said everything that is available to catch fire is catching fire. It's very explosive.
Yeah, and then you get these weird prompts that are going out to people saying, there's evacuation order in place. You've got a helicopter crashing. I mean, these poor... I feel sorry for the law enforcement and the incident commanders and the people that are trying to manage this and keep the public not only notified, but keep their crews safe and the public safe, of course, and the structure is safe. There's just so much going on.
So I think, too, it's important to note that, yes, even if it went out mistakenly, we do have a texter who said maybe it's better to have more people notified than needed to be than have fewer people notified who needed to be. Right. So I wanted to just point out some of the numbers on the Widemouth 2 fire. As of Saturday, there were 632 people working the fire, 7 helicopters, 23 engines, 9 dozers, and 9 water tenders.
That's a big crew.
It's a massive
That's a
fire.
huge crew.
Yeah. And I think we're at maybe 24% contained, but even with the potential rain, it also is coming with microbursts and lightning of wind, right?
Yeah.
So higher winds and lightning potentially, that's not going to help.
And just seeing that the fire over by Hennifer, just watching that, driving through there, and I know we're talking about the Widemouth 2 fire, but another fire. You look up and you see another fire. It's unrelenting, and it's not over. We're going to see more and more and more.
Yeah. So I think it's important to remember too that it just feels like multiple things combining to make this a particularly bad fire season. So drought, no snowpack during the winter, right? Lots of tinder on the floor, the forest floors. And now we just have, it's all over the West too. In fact, it might be all over the United States. I know up in British Columbia, in Canada, they had to evacuate 20,000 people over the weekend. Of course, the fire up in Oregon and Washington up by Spokane. I mean, it's kind of the world's on fire right now.
Yeah, and it was a Sikorsky S-64 helicopter, 2 pilots involved in that Friday morning at 10:30 near the Widemouth 2 fire near Richfield.
Right.
And we're just reporting that now. The names of the victims have not been released yet. I thought with the press conference we were having this morning, although it was for an unrelated fire, we might get some information about that. But I'm sure that they're doing identification and notification of family
So there's a related story as well to this Wide Mouth 2 fire. It's actually over 118,000 acres. But Meadow City in Millard County is preparing for flooding. They actually are sandbagging. They're getting ready for rain in the forecast, right? But we saw that with the last monsoonal moisture, just the flooding that happened.
Oh, Beaver was hit hard after they had that huge fire, and then they had rains, and they had the rains. The flooding caused almost as much damage as the fire.
I know.
Maybe even more to some of the structures.
So Meadow began flood mitigation discussions a week ago on Sunday, and by Thursday, volunteers were filling and distributing thousands of sandbags to residents. And the Meadow mayor said this is the largest wildfire in Utah. We're approaching the largest wildfire in Utah history. So the city is preparing itself based on what happened after other major wildfires in the region.
And on the one hand, you absolutely are, literally praying for rain.
Right.
But then when it comes,
there are areas that are going to
be
be more impacted for sure, right? Because you've now burned off everything and you've got that hard layer on the top. So
it's tough. I mean, we have to begin often the Monday mornings talking about fire, and I know some of our
all
listeners maybe
summer.
wonder about that, but it is newsworthy and it is important, and it keeps happening. And this weekend we had the loss of 2 lives,
we did.
And it's just important to keep people advised as to what's going on in case you see it, and if you got an alert this weekend, that you.
And
but
you
I think all that's been
maybe
taken
go ahead
care
and
of
get
by
ready.
now, right?
Yep. All right, look, next on Inside Sources, from fires to ice. All immigration agents are going to receive body cameras by the end of the month, but officials say the footage from those cameras won't be as readily available as advocates had hoped. More on that story coming up after bottom of the hour news, traffic, and weather.
At KSL News Radio, I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. A Utah man is once sentenced to death, is scheduled to return to the courtroom today as prosecutors seek to put him back on death row. Douglas Lovell has been sentenced to death twice for the 1985 murder of Joyce Yost, but the Utah Supreme Court overturned both of those sentences. Right now prosecutors are seeking the death penalty for a third time. And right now, prosecutors are planning to play an AI clone of Yost's voice when he's sentenced again.
Did you know this person? No. At that time? You'd never met him before? Never.
A jury is currently scheduled to decide whether Lovell will go back on death row in February. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. California is offering a new tax incentive for electric vehicle purchases. California's Governor Gavin Newsom says drivers can now get thousands of dollars off when they buy a new EV for the first time. The break applies to certain companies and new cars under $50,000 and used cars under $25,000. Here's ABC's Monica Madden.
Now, Californians will automatically get a $3,500 tax credit on a new zero-emissions car, or half of that for a used EV. The state set aside just over $135 million as a one-time investment, with partnering automakers matching that amount. It's part of a pledge Governor Newsom made before President Trump took office for a second term, ending the $7,500 federal EV rebates.
Newsom says the move is all about California being a global clean energy leader as the Trump administration has backed away from several emissions goals. Your money at this moment, the Dow and the S&P are basically flat. The Dow down 5 points to 54,032. The S&P up 1.5 points to 77 to 77.59. The Nasdaq though down 77 points to 26,613. Coming up, the weather. We're down out of the triple digits, but we could see the 80s by Thursday and Friday. Whoa! KSL weather's next. KSL News Time 9:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Hey Utah, have you heard? Nuclear energy might be coming to our state. Now, before your brain jumps straight into sci-fi movies, let's talk about what nuclear actually does. Nuclear technology helps power our nation's submarines, supports life-saving cancer treatments, and produces reliable electricity for millions of homes. That said, nuclear power also comes with some common misconceptions. Don't worry, we get it. Here's a fun fact. You're exposed to more radiation eating bananas than you are living near a nuclear power plant. And get this, a lifetime supply of nuclear energy fits into a single soda can. Despite what some people believe, nuclear energy is safe, clean, and incredibly efficient. But don't just take my word for it. Energy decisions matter, and Utahns deserve the facts. Learn more about nuclear and what it can mean for you. Visit energy.utah.gov/nuclear.
This is Colin Keary from the New Millennium Group. Have you ever had a question for your financial advisor only to find out that the next available appointment is months away? At New Millennium Group, we believe that financial advice should never be limited to once-a-year review meetings. Life happens every single day. Markets change, retirement questions come up, family situations evolve, and when they do, you deserve answers. That's why we pride ourselves at the New Millennium Group on being accessible when our clients need us most. Whether you're wondering about your investments or a major life decision, our team is here to help provide guidance. We're not interested in being the firm you hear from once a year. We want to be your trusted resource throughout your entire retirement journey. If you're looking for a financial team that values relationships, communication, and responsiveness, we'd love to meet you. Give us a call today at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or visit us at utahsfinancialplanner.com.
With Progressive's Name Your Price tool, you can choose the best coverage option for you. Because you know you. Like, you know you can't cook. You're not one of those people who say that they can, but when people come over for dinner, they find out the hard way, you can't. You can't even microwave popcorn, and that's literally just one button. Plus, measuring and patience are huge parts of cooking, and that's just not you. Only you know you. So get coverage options within your budget with Progressive's Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Everywhere you look, things are getting more expensive. But at Consumer Cellular, we're lowering the price for those 50 and up. Now you can get unlimited everything for just $35 a line. That's $35 a month for unlimited talk, text, and data. Switch to the carrier ranked #1 in network coverage and customer satisfaction and get unlimited everything for just $35 a month. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit Consumer Cellular online or in-store today. Price includes $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. Taxes and fees apply. Data speeds reduced after 35 gigabytes. Rankings done by 2025 ACSI survey.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Learn how to save more this summer at uccu.com. And here is Cormac Bone.
It is still stop-and-go traffic southbound Legacy Highway from Farmington near Park Lane all the way down past Parish Lane into Centerville. That crash still there just before West Bountiful and blocking all but one left lane. Looks like they do have a sizable tow truck on scene to hopefully get that semi-truck out of the way, and hopefully the delays start to clear out after they do. Southbound I-15, though, looking a lot better. You may want to consider taking that and going down to the north interchange to avoid the backup on Legacy. And northbound I-15, just a little bit of delays left over approaching 13th South in Salt Lake. We do have a crash on northbound I-15 at 2100 North in Lehigh. Looks like they're out of traffic and in the left shoulder, so causing no delays. I'm Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather forecast. We start to cool down this week. Highs dropping into the 80s on Thursday and Friday. A chance we'll see some rain today as the monsoonal storms start up. Looking for a high, though, of 97 degrees. Right now, 82 in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So, ICE agents will finally be getting body cameras. Yay! They're expected to be equipped by the end of the month. That's good news, right? A little more transparency into immigration policing policies. Well, there's a little bit of a catch.
Yeah, that's right. ICE officials say they'll only release the footage collected on those body cameras when it's, quote, in the agency's best interest, which is unbelievable to me. Now, let me break this down into two parts here. A, ICE agents are getting body cameras. We are 2/3 of the way through 2026. Virtually every police agency in the country has had body cameras, even small rural agencies that can't afford it. And think about ICE's budget. Probably greater than any law enforcement agency in the country. Yeah. And they're just now getting body cameras. What does that tell you? I mean, to me, I'll just say this. I've been practicing since 82. I remember when dash cameras came into being, and that's been probably 30 years. And people thought, oh, that's going to look bad for police officers. I represent police officers. One of the best things that happened to cops was getting dash cameras so that when people said, hey, you didn't read me my rights, or you didn't have probable cause to pull me over, or you detained me longer than you should have, we had those cameras to say, look, here's what really happened. And then we had body cameras come into being like maybe 10 years ago, maybe less. And a lot of agencies were like, oh, we can't afford these. They're going to be hard to get. And people are saying, well, law enforcement is not going to like these because it's going to expose things that they did. Just the opposite. It actually showed that law enforcement officers were doing their jobs. And when we get involved, sorry, I'm on a roll here. I'll back off when you tell me. But when we get involved with officer-involved shootings, OICI, officer-involved critical incidents, we look at what the officer was thinking at the moment they used their deadly force. The best evidence of that is that officer's body cam. What were they perceiving?
Right.
I mean, it's unforgivable that we have law enforcement agencies in this day and age without body cams. It's those that are on the street. I mean, I can understand investigators, that type of thing. But if you're on the street, if you're doing interdiction with people, mano a mano, you should have a body cam. You should have a dash cam. We should be able to have complete, transparency into what you're doing, what you saw, and what you did. If you look at what happened in Minnesota, it was outrageous what happened there.
Right, I know.
But for the citizens who are carrying their cell phone cameras,
Renee Good and Alex Pretty.
Exactly, recording those things, we wouldn't have had much to go on. Those officers' body cameras would have been, had they been wearing them, critical for those.
Had they been turned on.
Right, would have been critical for those particular officers' best interest.
Yeah.
The fact that ICE doesn't have that, in a court of law, Holly, you can take almost the adverse inference from that. That fact that you didn't have your body cam or you didn't have it on as evidence that maybe you're hiding something. Maybe there was a reason you didn't have it. Maybe there's a reason you didn't have it on.
I would say even in the court of public opinion, right?
Absolutely.
Because as you were talking about that, my thought was, look, I am suspicious now when I hear stories about police officers whose body cams were on their bodies, but they were turned off, right? And they're accused of something.
Yeah, and the technology is such that you don't have to just have it running all the time, because you can actually turn it on and it will backtrack, 30 seconds or something. There's some magic to it, but it works really well because it's sort of always running. It's just not always recording, and you can get the recording. Boy, I've had officers tell me, Greg, I'm so thankful I had my body cam. I'm so thankful I had my dash cam, because if you look at it, you'll see that what I did was the right thing to do. And that's what is being taken away and has been taken away from these ICE officers. So they say they should all have body cams by the end of August 2026. Are you kidding me? August 2024, maybe 2025. Like this is unforgivable. And then, okay, part two. ICE has said, well, we're only going to release those body cameras when it's in our, quote, best interest.
Well,
I think you cannot have that policy.
These are stories. This is something I learned when I was doing PR, public relations. You've got a shot and then you've got a chaser. So the shot is, hey, look, we're going to have body cams for all of ICE. And then the chaser is, but we're only going to release the footage when it's in the agency's best interest. So
well, somebody needs to read Department of Homeland Security Grandma. Somebody needs to read them what is available to the public. Public access. Grandma's for the state, but we have access to information that is available to other agencies, that's available to the public, that's available to the courts, and they're going to get that. Whether ICE says we're going to release it when it's our best interest or not, those things are going to be released. Like, believe me, they're going to be released.
Eventually, right? Eventually. So it's. I guess my question is, I understand that sometimes with ongoing investigations and court cases, it can be appropriate to keep some information under wraps for a little while.
100%. Yep.
Right? So it may be that. But the Alex Pretty, Renee Good case, that was like February, if I remember correctly. Those videos, the public videos, have been out since day one. Right. And they didn't have body cams on. And if they did, my suspicion is they would not have released them.
Right.
Because it makes them look really bad.
And you know what? I understand there are times when you don't release body cams to the public, and that is exactly what you said, Holly. Well, a case is under investigation. However, under investigation means that another agency, ideally, ethically, morally, is involved in that investigation, and that other agency, which shouldn't be the agency of the shooting of the offending officer or the accused officer, I should say, should have absolute access to those from the minute that they're available. Otherwise, how do you investigate?
Yeah.
And ICE shouldn't be investigating itself any more than Salt Lake County investigates itself.
Right, exactly.
It doesn't. We have a protocol right now, and it's been in place for 30 years where we have an independent agency immediately assigned to do an investigation. ICE should do the same thing. Otherwise, how do you even begin to overcome the information or the idea that there's no transparency, that you're hiding something? You say, as an agency, we're going to release information when it's in our best interest. Like that assumes the worst. That gives everybody the complete wrong impression that what you're doing is you're hiding things. So that way, if you don't have information, if you don't release something, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, to me, it's almost like saying, okay, you're going to have body cams, but don't turn them on.
Right, yeah.
Right. So you can be wearing them, but don't turn them on.
Yeah, and if it's not in our best interest, maybe it doesn't exist. I don't know. I mean, I'll tell you what, if you're a jury and you're hearing that we only release body cams when it's in our best interest, you're going to assume the worst.
You're going to say, I want to see that body cam footage right now.
And you're going to say, where is it? And if you don't have it, okay, then we'll assume that there's a reason we don't have it.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was advising ICE, I'd say open up floodgates, make it all, do your job and do it right, and let people know what you're doing.
It's been problematic.
Right. If you're doing the right thing, you have nothing to hide.
Yeah. Well,
yep. Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, no, I want you to keep going.
Those are things
Go
that are
into the next
important to law enforcement. They're important to the community. They're important to public interest. When we come back on Inside Sources, let's stick with ICE and talk about ways the immigration proceedings for thousands of people here illegally are bogging down in the court system. Another problem we have to deal with. What can be done about that? We'll talk about that and more after this break.
When it's hot like this, air conditioners struggle to keep up. Parts are under more stress, and sometimes those parts fail. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and no one helps more homeowners maintain and repair their air conditioners than Any Hour Services. As a matter of fact, last year, over 32,000 homeowners called Any Hour Services for help maintaining and repairing their systems. Any Hour Services has over 100 HVAC technicians to help with everything from maintenance, repair, to installing a new system. This summer, there'll be a lot of people told they need to replace their air conditioner, and they'll wonder, do I really need to? If you're told you need to replace your air conditioner and you still have questions, Any Hour Services can give you a second opinion and let you know what options are available. Maybe it just needs a little maintenance or a small repair. Maybe it does need to be replaced, but if you don't feel good about being told you need to replace your air conditioner, don't ignore those feelings. Call Any Hour Services for help with air conditioner maintenance, repair, or to schedule a free second opinion. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Your business isn't just a balance sheet. It's the late nights, the bold bets, the people counting on you to get it right. At UMB Bank, they've stood beside businesses like yours since 1913, not just as a bank, but as a team who understands what's at stake. Because real banking isn't just transactions, it's trust. It's a relationship built to last. Visit UMB.com. UMB.com. Bank deposit products provided by UMB Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
Let's face it, it's time to give your finances a serious glow up. Hi, I'm Susan Spears, a certified public accountant and host of the all-new podcast, Talk to Your CPA. Think of this as your ultimate money guide, packed with actionable tips for every stage of life. Starting a family, college, a business, retirement. We'll cover it all and call on a deep bench of money experts to share their best strategies. And when I switch into CPA mode, we'll cut through the jargon to uncover hidden tax breaks or financial nuggets that might work for you. like special deductions for tax earners, tax wins at age 65, and benefits when you buy a new car, or just how to stretch your dollar. The first episode drops soon, so subscribe to Talk to Your CPA on your favorite podcast platform today. Because true financial freedom isn't about ditching your daily latte. It's about uncovering hidden hacks to launch a financial glow-up that keeps on glowing.
Talk to Your CPA is proudly powered by the Utah Association of CPAs.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-330-8323 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-330-8323. That's 800-330-8323. What do you have to lose? Call 800-330-8323. Again, 800-330-8323.
Everything to my back is dark.
High in the alpine wilderness.
Really ugly clouds coming over from the north.
A place
The ridgeline is imposing, the escarpments, the drops.
where survival
It's dark now. I have nothing.
is never certain.
This is not good.
My name's Dave Cawley, and I'm the host of a podcast called Uinta Triangle. It's about the disappearance of an Australian hiker named Eric.
Our conclusion and that of the sheriff is that the mountains have decided to keep him.
Come retrace Eric's footprints with me.
You have done this walk too, but this is your backyard.
Did he really make a wrong turn, or did he decide that he was done?
He is not the first or last person to vanish in this remote region.
It was haunting to see the photos. I mean, really.
Find and follow the podcast series Uinta Triangle. That's Uinta, spelled U-I-N-T-A, Triangle, wherever you get your podcasts. All episodes out now.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
Well, as you might expect, the ongoing ICE detention crackdowns are sweeping the U.S. court systems again. It was already stretched pretty thin before all these roundups began.
So families, lawyers, and judges described last year Politico, saying they had never seen anything like this before.
Yeah, and of course, as the federal government is trying to deport thousands and thousands of people, emergency court cases to stop the deportation proceedings have resulted in lengthy delays, overworked courts, overworked judges, and it's bursting at the seams. And of course, we also have overworked or overstaffed detention centers holding people while they're waiting for their court proceedings to go. This was absolutely not unexpected. It's another thing that we probably should have recognized and realized was happening.
I think people did.
I mean, the court system, Holly, was backed up before we started all these detentions. And in fact, one of the problems that we had, and I appreciate this concern, was that it was taking so long to get people through the court system that they were no longer around when they actually had their hearing. Right. They were, because you can't just hold people. So now they're building more and more detention centers. I mean, concentration camps, whatever you want to call them. They're trying to build these big detention centers to hold people while they're waiting for their deportation proceedings to go. Our jails can't do it. I mean, they were going to build that huge facility out in Salt Lake.
Yep.
I mean, I shouldn't have called it that, but
10,
some sort of
10,
detention
people.
camp. Yeah, right. To hold 10,000 people, which would have doubled our incarcerated population in the state literally overnight. And so what are we going to do? You think about another thing that happened. I don't even think we've started with this yet. Maybe we have. When we had the temporary protected status.
Yeah.
And suddenly we say, okay, there are now
all of y'all
100,000, 300,000 Haitians who are immediately deportable.
Yeah.
What do you do with them? I mean, where do you put them? Do you say, hey, we'll have a court hearing for you next Thursday, you all show up, or schedule 300,000 hearings? Some of those are going to be in 3 years.
Right.
You know, you can't do that many.
Yeah.
And what do you do with the people in the meantime?
Yeah. I wanted to share a story from the Politico article that talked about how people have never seen this, but there was a man who was arrested. He has been shuttled across 3 different states. A federal judge finally said his detention without bond is illegal. He had been granted humanitarian parole in 2022, settled in Chicago. He was able to call his wife about 1 hour after he was taken into ICE custody and had like 5 minutes on the phone. And then that was it. And the only thing he could tell her was, take care of the kids. So this article said there are thousands of cases like his, more than 16,000 times in the past year. 16,000 times judges have ruled against ICE's detention tactics. 16,000 times.
Right. I mean, you got that whole due process clause of the Constitution.
I know.
And the whole cart before the horse thing, due process, presumption of innocence, all these things that our government has really prided itself in over the years are really taking a hit. And I'm not critical of ICE. I think I'm going to say this: 99% of the ICE agents, I think, want to do a good job, try to do a good job.
I think we're going to agree to disagree on that one.
Maybe so, but I mean, I didn't mean to. I mean, law enforcement really tries to do a good job, and ICE is maybe no different. Although we're certainly seeing some problems with them, but the court system. I think ICE needs to recognize that you can't just flood the court system with cases and detainees and hope that they're going to receive any semblance of due process, because what's going to happen is exactly what is happening, which is judges saying, hey, guys,
you can't do it
that way. Let's go to the United States Constitution, the way it's been written, the way it's been transformed over the years with the various amendments, 5th, 6th, 14th Amendment. Due process, fairness, notice, a hearing, a lawyer if you need one. That's the fundamental part of American jurisprudence that I think it makes us better than any country in the world. And I'll swear by that, having been a prosecutor and a defense attorney. But we're knocking that on its head now when we're saying, hey, we don't have time to do these people. We're deporting them before they have a hearing sometimes, and judges are ordering, bring them back. Like,
look,
what do you do?
This ICE crackdown, 16,000 times they've been rejected. And the administration just brushes it off to activist judges. And in fact, the Justice Department said legal challenges from activist judges will not deter the Department of Justice. And then they were asked whether the administration had concerns about the impact of its mass detention policy on families of those held by ICE, especially U.S. citizen spouses and children. Guess what they said?
What?
No.
Yeah.
We don't have any concerns about that.
I've practiced in front of immigration courts in Utah and Arizona several times, not as many as some of our immigration lawyers. I've just helped friends and family when they've gotten into issues. And there, at least in my limited experience, having practiced in maybe a dozen or so of these courts, I haven't seen what I would ever refer to or what anyone referred to as an activist judge. I mean, I think they're doing what they can to get people through the system. They're not particularly sensitive to people who are here illegally. They're very good about saying, okay, your time here is gone. It's time to get out of the country. But they do hold the government to their burden of proof and say, okay, why should we deport this individual? I know we have a backlog of cases, but let's have a hearing. Let's be fair. Let's have an open forum on it and decide what's the right thing to do. And they're not activist judges. They're not saying, oh, you can't do this. I mean, by and large, they're following the law that they didn't write, that they just took an oath to uphold, and taking people and treating them under what the law requires, which is due process and a hearing. And sometimes that takes longer than it should, because you know what we did in Utah when we got really backlogged with immigration cases? We lost one of our immigration judges. Hello, think about that. And I don't know if they've made it up yet or where we are in Utah, because I don't practice there regularly. But I mean, the backlog in immigration courts has just been inexcusable, and that's where we should put some money.
And more immigration judges are being fired, which is crazy. So there's a story out of Colorado, same kind of thing, right? But a judge that was just fired, immigration judge, says it's not about due process. It's about how fast can you deport them.
Right. Which are countervailing.
Well, I saw
attitudes.
another article. This one was in NPR and on a related note, and it just said private prisons announce $1.4 billion in revenue as immigration detentions climb. So there's the two largest private prison companies, CoreCivic and GEO Group. This is $1.4 billion in quarterly revenue because they are getting paid to detain people.
And if I've learned anything in my 4 decades of practicing law, the more prisons and jails you build, the sooner you fill them up.
Well, that's the whole,
Always.
if you build it, they will come.
It always
right?
happens. We need to build more prisons because we got these people. Okay. 2 years later, you're like, well, that wasn't the best idea. I mean,
remember Alcatraz? I mean, Alligator Alcatraz?
Yeah.
It's been closed, right? But it was supposed to be the greatest thing ever, and they've had to close it.
Yeah, I don't know what ended up happening with this one that they were doing in the northwest quadrant of Salt Lake City. It just seemed to have been,
It's
I think
totally
most
on hold right now.
authorities have decided that, A, there's not enough water, there's not enough infrastructure.
Right.
It's a abandoned warehouse. You can't put 1,000 people in it.
Right. There's a lot of that. And then remember, it was on the list where Markwayne Mullins said when he came in, he's like, well, we're going to put a pause on all of these, and in some cases not moving forward at all. Utah was on that list.
So, I mean, if the idea is to get as many people out of this country who are here illegally as possible, which is, I understand that.
Well, it was supposed to be
Then
the
maybe-
worst of the worst.
Maybe bringing more and more people on the front end to arrest them doesn't make sense when you need to get some people on the back end to deport them, to have judges and have lawyers and have prosecutors who can hear these cases and say, hey, dude, you shouldn't be here. Let's move you on your way, instead of just arresting him and filling him up, because the result of that is exactly what we've seen, which is judges saying, hey, guys, you're not doing this right. Do it right, or I'm going to toss you. And how many times did you say?
16,000
Yeah, okay,
times.
that's not 16,000 renegade judges.
Right.
I mean, those are cases that judges hear who really want to do the right thing and are like, hey, you guys, you're not doing this right. I don't know.
That's right.
I'll get off my ice bucket here.
Well, no, your ice bucket. Okay, that's funny. Look, in the next hour, we're going to talk about Israel, and we're also going to talk about back to school. But Israel has rejected a massive Trump-backed plan for peace in Gaza. So what does that do for the ongoing conflicts? Plus, here at home, thousands of new teachers are heading back to the classroom. We've got more back to school coverage coming up at 10:30. Stay with us for much more on Inside Sources.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour, Lake Mead hit a record low, according to the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. KSL News Radio Spencer Mahan has more.
The lake hit a total of 1,040 feet above sea level, which is now prompting serious concerns for many in the lower portion of the Colorado River Basin. Some of those concerns include turbines at the Hoover Dam going offline if the lake drops below 1,035 feet. ABC News reports that the basin as a whole provides water to 40 million people and power to 7 different states, including Utah. Meanwhile, Lake Powell is also nearing a record low, sitting just 1.5 feet above its lowest.
Utah Director of the Center for Colorado River Studies, Jack Schmidt, says this is another reminder of the seriousness of the ongoing Colorado River crisis. Wildfires have hit our state hard this year, but Utah State's Insurance Commissioner John Pike says so far he hasn't seen any insurers stop writing homeowners policies.
The good news is there are about 130 insurance companies that write homeowners insurance in the state of Utah. And so what I'm hopeful of, and so far pretty much seeing, there's usually one company or another or more who will write a homeowners insurance policy. Only in the highest risk areas is that becoming more of an issue.
Pike says homeowners can show insurers that they're taking action to help reduce the risk of fire damage from wildfires, and then that can help lower rates. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Trump says his administration is involved in, quote, low-key negotiations with Iran, but he's leaning more towards sanctions against Iran rather than another full-scale military attack. Iran is demanding the U.S. agree to a list of demands before they'll fully reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 31 points to 54,005. The S&P up 9 points to 7767, and the NASDAQ down 19 to 26,671. Coming up, we got a couple of hot days and then temperatures drop. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:02.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
What if you had the most reliable fiber-powered Wi-Fi and the price didn't change for 5 years? Guaranteed. Well, thanks to Xfinity, you don't have to worry about that part of your future now through August 24th. Get their best price on gig Wi-Fi this summer before it disappears. Just $50 a month for 5 years. And get online in minutes with same-day Wi-Fi. You're guaranteed 5 years of super intelligent Wi-Fi that keeps you protected from online threats and finds and fixes issues before you even notice them. No annual contracts or commitments, no hidden fees, and the best equipment included. Plus, get Peacock Premium included for 2 years. Lock in your price and unlock the possibilities. Get it now at Xfinity.com. Xfinity. Imagine that. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds vary. Use of fiber coaxial cable. Learn more at Xfinity.com/same-day Wi-Fi. Xfinity. Imagine that.
Stolen Voices of Dole Valley. A gripping new 9-part investigative podcast about a serial killer you've probably never heard of. Warren Forrest. A sadistic predator who prowled the Pacific Northwest in the early 70s. He hid behind the deeds of Ted Bundy. And he's only been convicted of 2 murders, but is suspected of many more. Since the release of Stolen Voices of Dole Valley, a witness identified in the podcast could lead investigators to the remains of Jamie Grissom.
He ran into the woods. He said he stumbled. As he fell down, he looks up and sees the body of a young woman.
And now the FBI is testing forensic evidence that had been collecting dust for decades. This cold case is now red hot. Binge the entire season of Stolen Voices of Dole Valley right now, wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the latest breaking news.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Auto loan rates as low as 4.74% APR. Let's go back to the traffic center in Cormac Bone.
As driver volumes decrease on the road, so do the delays on southbound Legacy Highway. It is still slow as you pass the West Davis Corridor merge. And then down toward where this crash is, still blocking 2 right lanes, so it's only the 1 left lane getting through on southbound Legacy Highway. So it's pretty dense right at the crash, but otherwise looking pretty good. Also some southbound I-15 delays in Layton just before you get to Layton Parkway. It looks like there may have been debris in the road there. I-15 through Utah and Salt Lake counties, though, looking really good. Just some light delays southbound I-215's westbound approaching I-80. At UTA, it's never just a ride from point A to point B. We move independence, we move purpose, we move memories, we move what matters, you. Plan your trip at rideuta.com. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather forecast, 30% chance pop-up of storms today with a high of 97 degrees, 96 tomorrow. Then things start to cool off a little bit. We're only looking at a high plus some rain of 82 degrees by Friday. Right now, it's 82 degrees, but sunny in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Kind of like a game of chicken between the U.S. and Iran. Iranian officials are saying the Strait of Hormuz will never fully reopen until the U.S., quote, corrects its behavior. Unquote.
Yeah, and Iran has now issued a slew of demands which U.S. officials have scoffed at. Iran says, okay, well, we'll just work with Oman and reopen the strait and monitor it that way.
And, of course, all along the way, our gas prices keep going up. Uncertainty keeps going along.
So let's talk about the conflict in the Middle East. We want to kick off this hour with a discussion of what's happening with Iran. And we have our go-to expert, Professor Austin Nuppy, director of the Haravi Peace Institute at Utah State University. Professor Nuppy, thanks again for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me back. It's good to be here.
So can you just
rinse and repeat? I feel a little bit like Dr. Nuppy. It's like, okay, what's going on now?
I'm sure we'll solve it in this 4-minute segment. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah. So it seems like Iran is now working with Oman, the country on the other side of the Strait of Hormuz, and they're making arrangements to reopen it, almost seemingly to exclude the United States in those discussions. What's your take on what's going on over there?
Yeah, so Oman is a kind of latent U.S. ally. There's pretty close diplomatic, economic, military cooperation. But the Iranians basically looked across the strait to the narrowest point, which is the shared border with Oman, and said, okay, let's negotiate some sort of tollway. The Iranians want somewhere in the upwards of 7 or 8% toll for each ship passing through that portion of the strait. The Omanis say maybe something closer to 3%. The Americans say 0. The Americans say they have a blockade. It's not really clear who's blockading who. We just know that a dozen or so ships are passing each day, which is just a trickle of what we're used to in terms of meeting global energy supply. So that's kind of the state of play as of the last few days, at least.
So, look, I saw reports also that the president said that the U.S. is, quote, low-keying negotiations with Iran. I don't even know what that means. What does that mean? That we're backing off?
It kind of sounds like something I tried to do during college when I was dating. You know, when you don't want to lead someone on, you're low-keying. Or I'm not entirely sure. It doesn't really seem like the president or Secretary of State are that focused on the Iran issue. Of course, they're having to juggle Iran and Israel, Gaza, and Saudi, and all the other issues in the region. The 15-point plan, what the Iranians want to do is bring the Americans back to the table based on the agreement that was proposed in the beginning of June, which is a more extensive version of those 15 points that the administration is trying to negotiate over, but it's really not going anywhere.
Professor Nuppy, it seems like the Iranians want a couple of things, not the least of which is some compensation for the damages that they've suffered and some lifting of some sanctions. The U.S. has backed off and saying, no, we're not going down that road. Is there a level of negotiation that is going on that we're aware of, or do you think a lot of it's just sort of behind the scenes at this point?
A lot of it's behind the scenes. It's what we call track 2 diplomacy, which happens not necessarily between heads of state, but the folks that work for the heads of state that are working through government sector and the private sector to try to figure out if there's any momentum forward. The Iranians really realize they have quite a bit of leverage at this point, so they want reparations for infrastructure things that were damaged. They want the U.S. to unfreeze funds. They want sanctions lifted on the energy program or the nuclear program, which they claim they're using for energy purposes, and the U.S. and European Union and Israelis say is for weapons. And a whole slew of issues. All the while, the uncertainty of the energy market, those sort of things are really driving a pressing need to restart the negotiations. So it's not entirely clear to me where the easiest, the most readily available point of leverage exists right now. At least if I'm working for the president, it's hard to say, right?
Yeah. I'm seeing some stories too that we're seeing other Middle Eastern countries start to make alliances, and what to you, especially with your professional experience in both foreign relations and also peace building, what does that signal to you?
It signals a high degree of uncertainty and some doubt that the Americans can actually follow through on their security commitments, which on the one hand means there's greater burden sharing. On the other, it's kind of a scary signal that the instability is pretty structural in the region, and that the middle powers, those kind of the Saudis, Pakistans, Turkeys of the group, are really concerned about wider regional stability. So what you saw last week, the Saudis, Pakistanis, and Turks got together and formed a defensive pact, kind of similar to NATO, not quite as extensive, and they're interested also in bringing in the Egyptians. So they're trying to reconfigure security agreements to try to keep the Iranians boxed out of that. Of course, Pakistan's on the other border of Iran, so if you get the Saudis and Pakistanis working together, that's a stronger deterrent than relying on the Americans alone, who seem to be juggling 2 or 3 different issues at the moment.
Professor Nuppy, it also appears that the U.S. military is running low on some of its munitions. That seems to be weighing in terms of what's going on there, and there also seems to be, and I don't know that we have confirmation of this, that Iran is getting some of their munitions from other countries, maybe even China. Do you know if either of those factors are making much of an impact in what's going on in terms of discussions and negotiations?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm in Tehran, I can look at U.S. domestic politics with the midterms coming up, with uncertainty in the economy, rising oil prices, the munitions issue, and realize that the president's weakness domestically undermines his ability to have leverage overseas, right? That's both a strength and a weakness of democracies when they go to do peace settlements. The transparency of public opinion in the U.S. can both be a strength and a weakness to those negotiations. As far as the arms issue, I've seen The administration, the Hegseth and the Department of War say there's no shortage. Other folks, there's some investigative journalists that are going on investor shareholder calls of Lockheed Martin and these other defense firms to actually figure out what's going on. In terms of trying to figure out demand, it's not entirely clear, though. If you look at the major defense firms, it looks like they're sensing an increase in demand on the part of the U.S. government.
So I want to go back to this agreement, this NATO-like agreement with Turkey and Saudi and Pakistan.
Yep.
Just from a practical perspective, how does Turkey, who belongs now to both of these organizations, how would that even come into play? Like, I don't understand how they can be part of both.
Yeah, well, Turkey is very shrewd. Erdogan, who's the leader of Turkey, is really trying to rebuild the status and prestige of the Ottoman Empire. He really wants Turkey to be a regional, beyond just a regional player in the Middle East, to really be a gateway between Europe and North America and the region, and really to exert influence. The way you have to think about this is to zoom out for a bit and think about regional politics. You have the Iranian bloc, you have this Israelis and Turks, right? Kind of three major centers of power. Saudis are more aligned with Turkey at this point, perhaps even more quietly Israel. But they're all trying to figure out what the new balance of power in the region is going to be moving forward, especially if the Americans decrease their commitments going forward.
Does it seem, and we've only got less than a minute left, that this alliance is set up in part to exclude Iran or exclude the United States or try to act independent of both of those countries?
It's not trying to exclude the United States. It's trying to act independently of the U.S., and it's certainly trying to exclude Iran. It's a deterrent against Iran. And so that's the Saudis are trying to build out kind of a new set of regional bilateral alliances as opposed to the old order where the U.S. kind of played the role of hegemonic stabilizer. They were the military, the prime power in the region, and then everyone else was looking for protection from the Americans. So the regional security architecture is changing here moving forward, and I think that's pretty significant.
All right, next up on Inside Sources, at the same time as low-key negotiations in Iran go on, Israel is pushing back on President Trump and his plans for peace in the Gaza Strip. Let's turn the conversation on that part, and hopefully our guests can stay with us for the next segment.
This is Colin Keary from the New Millennium Group. Have you ever had a question for your financial advisor only to find out that the next available appointment is months away? At New Millennium Group, we believe that financial advice should never be limited to once-a-year review meetings. Life happens every single day. Markets change, retirement questions come up, family situations evolve, and when they do, you deserve answers. That's why we pride ourselves at the New Millennium Group on being accessible when our clients need us most. Whether you're wondering about your investments or a major life decision, our team is here to help provide guidance. We're not interested in being the firm you hear from once a year. We want to be your trusted resource throughout your entire retirement journey. If you're looking for a financial team that values relationships, communication, and responsiveness, we'd love to meet you. Give us a call today at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or visit us at utahsfinancialplanner.com.
What keeps you up at night? Do you wonder if what you've saved will be enough? If your money will go as far as you plan? Or whether your retirement will look the way you imagine? What worries you? Everyone's concern is different, but ignoring it won't make it disappear. This is Ron Paul. You may not be able to predict what comes next, but you can take steps now to diversify your savings with precious metals before uncertainty becomes urgency. My friends at Birch Gold Group will send you a free info kit explaining how gold can help diversify your IRA or 401k. Just text the word SECURE to the number 989898. There's no cost and no obligation. Just free information to help you consider your option. Take the first step with Birch Gold. Text the word SECURE to the number 989898.
If you're a news and politics nerd like me, you have to make sure you're subscribed to the Utah Policy Newsletter. I put that together for you every weekday morning, and you get the ability to scroll the top local and national stories, stuff that really makes an impact in your daily life. And there's a little bit of fun to start your day off right. Just go to utahpolicy.com and hit that big subscribe button.
How are Utah schools weighing the benefits and risks of AI?
It levels the playing field for our learners.
But for one student, it gave dangerous advice.
He'd asked the chatbot, what should I do? And AI told him to punch the kid in the face.
With each district writing its own rules, the answers could change from one classroom to the next.
We need to put into place as many guardrails and protocols as we can.
Teaching with Tech. AI in Class, tonight at 10 on KSL 5.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
911, tell me exactly what happened.
My son and his wife and their 2 children haven't responded.
Susan Powell disappeared on a snowy morning in 2009.
I said, Josh, where are you? You need to get home.
And her husband will never be held accountable.
Your wife is missing, Josh.
Yeah, but I've always...
And you want to think about it for a couple of days?
I'd had this overwhelming feeling that he had done something to her already.
I'm Dave Cawley, host of the podcast Cold.
Then he starts making phone calls to Susan's phone.
Hello, Susan. We are on our way back.
It's the deepest of deep dives into this tragic tale of abuse.
Where was Josh when Susan disappeared?
I don't know.
Of one mother's desperate attempt to escape.
This is me, covering all my bases.
Help prevent it from happening again.
Our focus has and continues to be finding Susan.
Listen and learn by following Cold wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
The new Inside Sources.
Well, while the U.S. focuses on conflict resolution with Iran, government officials are also looking at peace between Israel and Palestine.
Well,
maybe.
Despite President Trump's pushing a 15-point plan for peace in Gaza, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel not interested. They've rejected it.
So, conflict in the Middle East. Let's continue our conversation before the break with that we had before the break with Professor Austin Nuppy, director of the Harabi Peace Institute at Utah State University. Professor Nuppy, let's shift our attention over to Gaza right now. And can you tell us what it is about Trump's plan that Netanyahu wasn't crazy about?
Yeah, so the current sticking point is whether or not the Israelis redeploy out of the Gaza Strip first, or whether Hamas completely disarms. So last time we talked, Hamas in principle agreed to disarm, but they were waiting for the Israelis to take the first step. So now you're caught in one of these classic commitment issues where if you're the first mover, then you really open yourself up. You make yourself quite vulnerable to future attack. And you can understand that both the Israelis and the Hamas face that those incentives to be the second mover in that. And so Washington wants movement there. The Israel Defense Force is occupying about 70% of the Strip, and they're looking at a graduated schedule for redeploying to the original border, but that's nowhere near in sight. And Hamas is saying, listen, we agree in principle to disarm. We agree in principle not to participate in the next round of politics and governance, but we need some security guarantees that as soon as we do that, the Israelis don't continue their assault on the Strip. Even now, there's a not so peaceful ceasefire exists, and there's a dozen or so casualties or so every week of low level fighting. So it's really not even in the ceasefire stage yet, despite some of the optics around the current stage of the agreement.
Yeah, I think I think to your point, it's a game of chicken in some ways, right? It's like, no, you lay down your arms first. No, you lay down your arms first. So I'm seeing an NPR article that says that Netanyahu has an election coming up October 27th, and there are some polls indicating that his coalition could lose the majority. How much of that is playing a part in his statement that they reject this peace plan?
Oh, it's certainly right. Anytime you think about foreign policy, when it comes to democratic states, you always have to consider the role of elections and public opinion. So Netanyahu faces an election here at the end of October. The Americans face one 2 weeks later. So those public opinion pressures are certainly as important. Looks like right now that the Likud party coalition is going to fall apart. You have two primary rivals that are both equally hawkish on Hamas and the Gaza issue of Eisenkot and Naftali Bennett, two different parties, either kind of center-left, center-right. And the issue now in the Israeli election is they need to figure out how to cobble together an efficient and effective opposition, and that includes having to bring in the Arab Israeli parties into that. And so you're going to have to cobble together a whole bunch of different parties, including Palestinian citizens of Israel, to defeat Likud. But Netanyahu faces very little incentive to look less than a hardliner in these negotiations if he wants to secure yet another term. He's already Israel's longest-serving prime minister, right? So all the public opinion pressure is certainly on the incumbents at this point.
It seems that the president is probably thinking, Professor Nuppy, that Hamas is so weakened that maybe they're not in the best position to object to this, and that maybe Israel should just jump on board. Do we know what kind of a grip Hamas still has in that region?
You know, it's far from clear. I was looking at the written document from the Gaza Board of Peace, and what they've outlined in this update to the June 15-point plan was that you would have a simultaneous evacuation of the IDF and disarmament of Hamas in the presence of, quote, an international stabilization force. But there's really no other details about who's going to be doing the stabilizing and to what extent. At some point, I think in the last 18 months, they were talking about like a regional peacekeeping force of Emiratis and Egyptians and Jordanians. That doesn't really look to be in discussion at all now. Typically in these sort of situations, post-conflict, if you think about the Balkans or West Africa, Liberia, Sierra Leone, things like that, you'd have something like UN peacekeepers come in, provide stability, and provide at least a very basic level of trust where adversaries can take some good faith measures to resolve the conflict. Right now, you don't have that. So neither, right, the Israeli military, nor Hamas have any incentives to disarm or demobilize. Unless the U.S. is going to put in ground troops into the region and facilitate that exchange. That's highly, highly, highly unlikely.
Yeah,
it does seem unlikely. So I guess I'm asking you to prognosticate again. What's going to happen? Are we going to see just a low keying of this as well until after elections?
They're going to be, at least the Americans are going to be trying to punt on the issue a bit. I think there's a couple different directions. If the president in his conversations with Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, if they're in the West Wing and the president's just fed up with Netanyahu, you'll see him make more public statements on True Social and other outlets saying, listen, the U.S. is tired of dealing with this. Why are we continuing to provide you with diplomatic support and arms, and really threaten to kind of exercise some leverage, cutting off security assistance to Israel? If you see that, that's an effort to try to push the Israelis to the negotiating table. If you don't, then I don't see any reason why Netanyahu or the Likud party would try to make any concessions in the short term. You have to kind of look at Israeli public opinion polls, see how important that issue is. Gaza is overwhelmingly important to most voters. The issue is what types of policy solutions would increase support for Netanyahu, right? The thing is, even in a country like Israel, it's pretty small. Most people don't have really detailed heuristics in their mind about foreign policy when they go to vote. They're concerned about energy prices and grocery prices and unemployment.
Just like here.
So,
yep.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the Americans, right? And so you'd have to – I don't know enough about those public opinion before the Israeli election to actually know how much negotiating leverage Netanyahu thinks he has going into these. I think that I don't really see any way out of the current stalemate without someone really being a first mover.
But in light of something you just said, Professor Nuppy, something akin to a UN peacekeeping force, would the Israelis and Hamas maybe feel okay about something like that? And if so, why not try something like that?
Yeah, it was kind of one of the more interesting parts, the more creative elements of that Gaza Peace Board when it was first formed here in the last few years. My sense was that a more conventional American administration would go about and try to build out some sort of regional security architecture to serve as kind of a custodial government or custodial police force during the transition. You haven't seen that. And the Americans really haven't put any pressure on these weaker allies or your lesser power allies, people like or states like Jordan, maybe Lebanon, maybe Egypt, right, to move in that direction. The Emiratis haven't made any movement there. Obviously, the Gulf states are worried about Iran. So the Gulf states aren't really in a position to think about sending peacekeepers into Gaza and having to deter Iran.
Right.
So there's been very little movement on one of the few parts of the peace plan that was kind of creative and worth a shot, at least in principle.
I'm guessing, maybe reading between the lines, that Netanyahu maybe gains a little bit with his election in October if there is no agreement, but Trump maybe loses. And maybe you know a lot more about that than I do, but those seem to be competing interests that in terms of each country wanting this resolved. Am I wrong?
That's certainly the case. And so we'll see in November, then also the next 2 years. The progressive wing, the Democratic Socialist wing of the Democratic Party now has made Israel like a top 3 or top 5 issue, which is really interesting. Most political movements, populist or otherwise, don't have foreign policy issues on the platform. But what we saw in the primary in Michigan, Abdullah Saeed, this physician that's running for Senate, Israel was like on the top of the agenda there in terms of issues they care about. And it's become a litmus test for progressive, far-left progressive Democrats. In terms of, listen, they hold Biden responsible for U.S. support in the aftermath of October 7th, and they're trying to push the Democrats in a new direction as well. And so I think you're going to see Middle East politics actually be more important to elections in the U.S. than it has been since maybe the 1970s with the OPEC crisis. Something I really wasn't expecting given kind of the trajectory of how U.S. elections typically work.
Yeah, interesting. Thanks for that. We really appreciate you, Dr. Nepi. So that was Professor Austin Nepi, director of the Haravi Peace Institute at Utah State University. We're going to, speaking of schooling issues, we're going to go back to school with Inside Sources and continue our special coverage on getting ready for the new school year. Today, we're going to talk about new teachers and the personal funds that teachers use to make sure your kids have the supplies they need to be successful. Stay with us.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour happening right now. A former Utah death row inmate is back in court. Douglas Lovell has been behind bars since 1993 when he was convicted for killing Joyce Yost of South Ogden. He was sentenced to death twice, but the Utah Supreme Court threw those sentences out. Now prosecutors are again seeking the death penalty. A jury will decide whether he'll be put back on death row. We now know the person who died in a car crash in Lehi on Friday was a podcaster who focuses on religion. Chandler David Hendry reportedly ran a red light and struck 2 other cars. Police say he was not wearing a seatbelt at the time. The other drivers and occupants were not hurt. Hendry founded the Restored Truth podcast, which explores dating, scripture, the history of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. More food recalls are hitting the U.S. because of salmonella outbreak that has impacted more than 24 states. The warning comes on the heels of the lettuce recall linked to a parasitic stomach bug still. ABC News medical contributor Dr. Alok Patel has advice.
According to the CDC and federal officials, the supplier from Taylor Farms, that has been stopped. And the best buy or the sell date for the lettuce that was involved, that's all been recalled, and it should be off of shelves. If you have it in your kitchen for some reason, throw that out. So according to these reports, it is safe now to eat lettuce, but it's important to note that not every case of cyclosporiasis has been tied to this iceberg lettuce.
The USDA is recalling meat products that contain recalled jalapenos that were sold at Kroger, Walmart, Albertsons, and other grocery stores. Your money at this moment, the Dow down 94 points to 53,942. The NASDAQ down 71 points to 26,619. Coming up, we've got a few pop-up storms today, but more rain later this week. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. I'm here with Monty from Connecticut Quality Water Systems of Salt Lake, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. And I was thinking the other day, Monty, that every water softener I've ever seen has a giant tank that holds bags and bags of water softener salt. Well, except one, the one I have in my home. And I picture this, my Connecticut has the little salt tank about the size of a paper shredder or a small trash can.
Well, Doug, that's because the Connecticut water softeners use so much less salt, an average of 70% less than other water softeners. So you don't need a tank that holds 6 or 8 bags of salt.
I love the fact that it's so easy to fill because I don't have to lift those bags up so high, and it seems like those bags of salt, well, they're getting heavier every year.
Yes, it does. When you're using 1 bag of salt for every 3 a regular water softener uses, there's no need for a large salt tank.
Tired of lifting those heavy salt bags to fill your giant water softener salt tank? Go to softwaterutah.com. That's softwaterutah.com.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer at a beverage manufacturing plant, he starts his day knowing every line is ready to run because Grainger delivers the industrial-grade products he needs to keep mixers, conveyors, and packaging equipment moving. With Grainger's vast selection of bearings, belts, and motors, he keeps operations running smoothly, so nothing grinds to a halt. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6681. That's 800-583-6681.
Hey Utah, have you heard? Nuclear energy might be coming to our state. Now, before your brain jumps straight into sci-fi movies, let's talk about what nuclear actually does. Nuclear technology helps power our nation's submarines, supports life-saving cancer treatments, and produces reliable electricity for millions of homes. That said, nuclear power also comes with some common misconceptions. Don't worry, we get it. Here's a fun fact. You're exposed to more radiation eating bananas than you are living near a nuclear power plant. And get this, a lifetime supply of nuclear energy fits into a single soda can. Despite what some people believe, nuclear energy is safe, clean, and incredibly efficient. But don't just take my word for it. Energy decisions matter, and Utahns deserve the facts. Learn more about nuclear and what it can mean for you. Visit energy.utah.gov/nuclear.
KSL News Time is 10:35. Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. You deserve to love where you bank. Here's Cormac Bone.
Well, the crash on Legacy has cleared up, and so have the delays. It's now a clean drive on any road southbound through Weber and Davis counties. In Salt Lake County, we are seeing a couple of issues. Westbound on the 201 freeway, there is a crash blocking the right lane at 8000 West. Just a little more heavy than usual there. And we do have a disabled vehicle on southbound I-15 at 106 South. They're out of traffic and in the right shoulder, so not causing any slowdowns. I'm Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, a high today of 97 with some pop-up storms, 96 tomorrow, 90 on Wednesday, but then the highs only get into the 80s and the low 80s at that Thursday through the weekend. Right now, it's already 88 degrees here in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Back to school. Special coverage on KSL News Radio.
As hundreds of thousands of Utah kids prepare for a new school year, so are thousands of teachers. And this year, the state's welcoming in roughly 3,000 brand new teachers. That number surprised me.
Yeah, back to school with Inside Sources. The first public schools begin this week on Wednesday. Most of the students in my alma mater, Granite School District, will head back to class. Many teachers are already back at work for the new year.
But for brand new teachers, they're starting a whole new, often unknown journey. So over the next 2 segments, we wanted to focus in on the teachers, the support they get or they don't get, and the costs that they incur to follow a profession that they love.
And so we're joined this morning by Jason Swenson. He's a Deseret News reporter. Jason, thanks for joining us this morning.
Holly, Greg, good to be with you.
Yeah,
the
thanks.
most dreaded 3 words of school kids everywhere, right? Back to school.
Back to school. So you did a story recently about new teachers kind of back to school. It was new teacher training. And I wonder if you could talk to us just a little bit about what you learned about 3,000 brand new school teachers.
Right. I had some time just a few days ago to spend some time with a new cohort of middle school teachers who were going to be working in the Canyon School District. They had an orientation for all of the new middle school teachers that will be working in that district. And it gave me a great opportunity to sit down with several of them to ask about why they decided to pursue that profession at as you referenced, Holly, a challenging moment in K through 12 education, and some of their hopes and aspirations and fears and apprehensions as they look forward to that first day of school, like every one of the kids.
And what did you learn? I mean, what is it that is drawing people, 3,000 new teachers into our school system? I mean, because a lot of people just love to do it. It's a labor of love. It's not something you're necessarily going to get rich doing. But what is it that's drawing these young people back into or to come and want to teach?
Every one of the teachers or the new teachers that I spoke with, Greg, they all said the same thing, is that they have a passion for teaching and a desire to connect and build relationships with young people that in every case of the teachers that I spoke with began with their own experiences in school because they had that one particular teacher or a group of teachers, perhaps at a very particular moment where they felt seen, where they felt built up, and were given a boost of confidence at a critical moment. And for many of these teachers, they're thinking, that's something that I would certainly like to be able to pass along in my professional career as well. So certainly, as you might guess, we have thousands of new teachers, and at least those that I've spoken with are certainly driven by an idealism that they can, in fact, be difference makers in the classrooms.
So I have a question. I don't know that you asked this at all, but some of these new teachers are right out of college, and so it's middle school that you were talking to, so I get it's not quite the same, but it feels like they're so close in age almost to the students, right? So especially if they start dealing with high school at all. Did you talk about to them, did they express like they're nervous or they don't know how to make the transition between being the cool kid and now, hey, I'm the teacher and they have to manage a classroom? Did you talk about some of their anxieties with them?
I think there was a bit of anxiety that certainly mixed in with a great deal of enthusiasm. I think, as you mentioned, a sizable number. In fact, the Board of Education shared with me that about 2/3 of the new teachers that will be in Utah classrooms are, in fact, recent college graduates, and they looked the part. When I sat down with them, they were clearly, I don't want to say kids, but young people, young professionals in their 20s. So you're right; they don't look a lot different than the students that are going to be in front of them. But I think, if anything, they felt that one of the advantages of youth is you're going to have a lot of energy and you're going to have a lot of enthusiasm. And when you're talking about teaching middle school kids about science or about math or some of those, sometimes daunting subjects, I think they clearly think that their relative youth at all will be nothing but a resource and an advantage for them.
Jason, 3,000 new teachers seems like a lot to me, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, but I'm wondering if that's just normal attrition, people retire, which seems unlikely, or that there's significant growth, which also seems unlikely, or maybe people are just leaving Utah. Teachers are leaving for greener pastures. Do we know why? And maybe that's just a normal number. I don't know, but do we know why there's such a large number of teachers entering our our schools this year?
I think to answer your question, Greg, the first thing is that the spokesperson for the Board of Education pointed out is that 3,000 number. That's not an unusual number. Okay. That's about the expected number that they anticipate every year. And so, without going too deep into it, I think we can sort of draw some conclusions that you're going to have a healthy number of teachers who are retiring, leaving the profession. And let's be honest, there will be others who at some point, most likely fairly early in their career, maybe by year 5, decide this isn't the career for me. And so there's going to be some attrition with retirement, but also others who simply decide I want to look at a different career path. And when I had a chance to speak to these new teachers, they were, while enthused and even idealistic, they were not naive. They recognized that, in fact, there are challenges in being in a K through 12 classroom, whether it's absenteeism or classroom behavioral issues, or trying to strike the right balance in relationship with parents, and certainly the pressures now that are going to be on a lot of teachers to be able to perform, as a lot of people are keeping a close eye on the performance of our Utah students, and so they're coming into it with certainly with their eyes wide open, that they're excited about it, but also recognizing this is not going to be an easy task.
Mm-hmm. So I'm seeing some numbers that I guess leaving the profession, it's during the first 5 years in Utah, it's 40%. So that's pretty high turnover. If you make it past the 5-year mark, then you usually stay at least a decade and sometimes longer. So I just thought that was really interesting. I also don't know if you know the answer to this too, but I saw conflicting stories and I was able to pull them both up. But one of them says, this was from early July, Utah schools still need hundreds of teachers ahead of new school year. And then the end of July, this story that said 150 people try for a single teaching job at Utah Elementary School. So are they filling all the spots? Are we out of the teacher shortage? Do we have a glut? Do you know?
No, I'm not able to directly answer as to why it seemed to be two very, very much opposing stories. I do know that a lot of these districts really prioritize their recruitment efforts to try to fill those needs and find the best people possible, and then also provide the sort of support that I think is necessary to sort of get ahead of some of that burnout that you referenced, Holly, by encouraging collaboration, not only amongst their fellow teachers, but also with mentors. I thought it was interesting, Greg, that every single new teacher that's coming on board is required to have a mentor. And some districts set up a fairly well-organized system of mentorship, all to try to head off any of those sort of burnout problems or deal with the sort of challenges. As to, if there's in fact a huge demand or a difficulty finding that, I'd have to find out, Holly.
Good info. Thanks, Jason. That was Jason Swenson with the Deseret News. Very, very good news for schools, 3,000 new teachers. Hope they stick around. Well, next up on Inside Sources, we're going to stay with Back to School on KSL. We're going to talk about more of the costs that teachers are having to spend to make sure your students are successful. Our conversation with the UEA when we come back.
I want to extend an invitation to stop hiding in the back of photos. I know what that feels like. Mm-hmm. How long can you hold your breath for the photo before you finally have to let it out?
Yeah.
You don't have to do that anymore once you go through Soda Diet and Nutrition, because they will change how you look. I let go of 70 pounds in 5 months.
And I let go of 37 pounds in 3 months. And I remember when I used to wear jackets even in 100 degrees in the summer because I wanted something to cover my waist. Do you know how fun it is to be able to tuck a T-shirt in? This is the simple things in life. Tucking a shirt, wearing shorts, and not feeling self-conscious is awesome.
Putting a belt on that goes right below your belly button where it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was possible. And then it was because of Soda Diet and Nutrition.
Right now, you can get 4 weeks for free by calling 866-800-SODA and just mentioning KSL.
But the time's running out to take advantage of this, so call 866-800-SODA, mention KSL, and get 4 weeks free because Soda is, say it with me, Amanda, state of the art.
Salt Lake City, get ready for a brand new summer tradition. Join thousands at the Utah State Capitol on Saturday, August 22nd for the inaugural Capitol 5. Choose a scenic 5-mile run or a fun 1-mile Capitol walk. Then stick around for the Capitol Capital Festival featuring live music, food trucks, family activities, and local vendors. Plus, don't miss the spectacular opening ceremony with a massive American flag unfurling over the Capitol grounds. Run, walk, celebrate. Register today at thecapital5.com.
Bad driving habits are hard to break, but good driving habits are easy to form, especially when they can lead to a discount on your auto insurance. With Farm Bureau Financial Services, the safer you drive, the more you save. Drivers like you are saving an average of $351 per vehicle. So buckle up, learn more, and find an agent at fbfs.com/save. Individual savings results may vary. Farm Bureau Property and Casualty Insurance Company, Western Agricultural Insurance Company.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer at a beverage manufacturing plant, he starts his day knowing every line is ready to run because Grainger delivers the industrial-grade products he needs to keep mixers, conveyors, and packaging equipment moving. With Grainger's vast selection of bearings, belts, and motors, he keeps operations running smoothly, so nothing grinds to a halt. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You need someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now you can meet them fast on ZipRecruiter.
Build your team, build it sooner. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
The truck just arrived at Gillette Services.
And so did the savings.
Gillette has a load of new Carrier air conditioners for an amazing price. Get a new Carrier air conditioner starting at just $34.95.
That's $1,500 off while inventory lasts.
Save big with a trusted family-owned company and enjoy expert installation from Utah's largest Carrier dealer.
And 8-time President's Choice Award winner.
Call 385-273-6628
or visit GilletteServices.com before these truckload savings
are gone.
Carrier, turn to the experts. A Carrier factory authorized dealer.
Everything to my back is dark.
High in the alpine wilderness.
Really ugly clouds coming over from the north.
A place.
The ridgeline is imposing, the escarpments, the drops.
Where survival.
It's dark now. I have nothing.
Is never certain.
This is not good.
My name's Dave Cawley, and I'm the host of a podcast called Uinta Triangle. It's about the disappearance of an Australian hiker named Eric.
Our conclusion and that of the sheriff is that the mountains have decided to keep him.
Come retrace Eric's footprints with me.
You have done this walk too, but this is your backyard.
Did he really make a wrong turn, or did he decide that he was done?
He is not the first or last person to vanish in this remote region.
It was haunting to see the photos. I mean, really.
Find and follow the podcast series Uinta Triangle. That's Uinta, spelled U-I-N-T-A, Triangle, wherever you get your podcasts. All episodes out now.
Inside Sources.
We've got more back to school with KSL News Radio, and students are in their final weeks or maybe even days for some district before they head back to class.
And teachers across the state, a lot of them are already hard at work preparing for a new school year. So today we're focusing on them, the educators.
Yeah, and we just spoke about some of the new teachers. We want to talk about that a little bit more, but we also want to talk about the costs that some of them are incurring before they go back to school.
So joining us this morning is Renee Pinkney, the president of the Utah Educators Association. Renee, I understand you're at a new teacher orientation this morning.
Yes, and it is. We are anticipating a great year. Teachers are full of anticipation and are looking very forward to working with their students and collaborating with their parents and families.
That's awesome.
We just learned, Renee, that there was something like 3,000 new teachers in K through 12. We're wondering what it is that still draws people to want to do that. What are you hearing from some of the young people that you're dealing with?
A love of learning. A love of helping students reach their full potential, wanting to give back to a certain extent to the community that supported them when they were going through school, K through 12, and believing in the value of public education, which is really the cornerstone of our democracy.
So, Renee, what kind of support is available for teachers, especially if they're in their first year, but also looking to that 40% dropout rate, basically, in the first 5 years? What are you seeing for support for them?
You know, I have heard from teachers in terms of that very question. You know, what do you do to support your new teachers coming into your school? And it really is relying on their team. And veteran teachers are very generous with their time, and they want to help mentor new teachers while at the same time encouraging them to make their classrooms their own. And so, you know, if you are in an elementary school and you have a grade level team relying on them, and in some cases, and at the high school, you know, you have your departments, and just being really open to asking the questions, to asking for help. Don't feel like you're isolated in your classroom. Reach out.
Do you know, Renee, whether a lot of these new teachers are homegrown Utahns who maybe attended schools here, or whether people are coming in from other states, or is there a pretty good mix of both?
You know, I have no idea, but generally speaking, in my experience, we get a lot of teachers who are homegrown. And, you know, myself, for example, I started teaching where I went to junior high.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, we like to go back.
So I wanted to pivot to really talking about the cost to educators. So I know that we talk a lot about free and fair public education, but it's not free for a lot of families, and it doesn't seem to be free for the teachers. I mean, they're compensated with a salary, but my own daughter, who's a teacher in junior high, she spends a lot of money out of pocket for her classrooms. Can you talk to us about what educators are facing from financial demands that way?
You know, there are always wish lists, right, that teachers have, and it depends on if it's elementary or secondary. And really, parents and teachers shouldn't be asked to subsidize an underfunded public school system. However, if parents have the ability to, you know, purchase some of those school supplies, and I know Kleenex was always a big deal, and, you know, sometimes even reams of paper, you know, in order to make copies. And if they can, teachers so appreciate that. And in addition to that, what teachers could really use, and especially new teachers, is that, you know, collaboration with parents in helping our students, their children, in terms of what they need, and to help them be successful, and having parents, you know, literacy and reading to them, and engaging in terms of their homework, and expressing how important education is.
Renee, it seemed like a couple of years ago the legislature did what it thought was appropriate at the time to get some Utah teacher salaries up to levels where they were competitive with some of our bordering states. Are we still in a pretty competitive salary range right now in Utah?
You know, that really depends on where you live
Yeah.
and where you teach. And we know that, you know, the inflationary pressures that are on all of us impact our districts and impact our educators and our families, right? And we're all being forced to make some tough decisions, budgetary decisions, in order to manage, whether it's our own family budgets or school budgets.
Do you have a number, Renee, for an average that teachers across the state of Utah might be paying out of pocket for their teaching experience, I guess?
For their teaching experience.
Well, I don't mean they're that sounds like I'm asking you about college. I'm asking you about the classroom and what they spend out of pocket. Do you have an average? Do you know?
Yes, we do. There was an organization, adoptclassroom.org, that asked that question, and it's close to $900 a year, so $995. And you know, teachers do have their classroom supply money that is given, you know, from the state, but it's $200. And I know, at least from a secondary perspective, what I was purchasing, $200 doesn't go very far.
Mm-hmm.
So we shouldn't be subsidizing an underfunded public school system. We should have adequate funding for the time that we are living right now.
We're speaking with Renee Pinckney, president of the UEA. Can you tell us, we had heard earlier that there was like a mentorship program for a lot of these new teachers. Are you aware of that, and can you tell us about that? Sort of in line with maybe trying to keep them, help with the whole retention thing.
Yes, and I can speak from experience. In my district, I was one of those mentors, and it really depends on the district and if they have the funding for that. However, that program didn't last very long, and I believe I had around a dozen new teachers that I was mentoring. However, the veteran teachers in the building will all mentor new teachers and each other and collaborate in order to make sure that our working conditions are optimal, because those are our students' learning conditions.
So I wonder, you have already mentioned read to your kids, participate in that way. What are some ways, in addition to that parents can best support teachers throughout the school year?
Keeping in touch with educators, with teachers, letting them know if their student seems to be struggling with a particular subject, or if their student is experiencing some unease about coming to school, so that we can help mitigate some of that. We know that absenteeism has really increased over the years, and especially after the pandemic, and just really communicating with us and, attending those parent-teacher conferences if you can. We know that oftentimes those conferences are not necessarily at times when parents can attend, but we really would love the collaboration. And if there are conversations at home, about different curriculum, it's always nice to get that positive feedback from a parent. We had this discussion at the dinner table, and we really appreciate what you're teaching. And that goes a long way to keeping people in the classroom when they feel like they are appreciated and respected.
All right. I was going to ask how parents could help teachers financially, but we've run out of time. And I really appreciate your time, Renee.
Yeah, that was Renee Pinckney. In the next hour of Inside Sources, we're asking you this question: should there be more oversight of social media companies? And if so, who should be doing that oversight? That's our question of the day. Join the conversation and text us what you think at 57500. We're going to talk about a new poll that asks those same questions next.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Cameron Elliott. KSL's top story this hour: 2 helicopter pilots who were killed while fighting the Widemouth 2 fire over the weekend are being hailed as heroes. KSL News Radio's Don Brinkerhoff reports investigators are now trying to determine what exactly caused their chopper to go down.
Rough terrain and a secondary fire caused by the crash made it difficult for rescue crews to reach the crash site.
By the time we were called off and were able to account for everybody, there was active flame between us and where the site was. So if we had not moved some of our responders and the hand crews out, they would have been trapped by the fire as well.
Sevier County Sheriff Nathan Curtis says that's why they made the difficult decision to pull the crews back until the situation improved. Crash happened above 7,000 feet, and rescue crews had to get into the crash site on foot. Don Brinkerhoff, KSL News Radio.
In other local news, many homeowners in Morgan and Summit counties are still evacuated this morning as a new wildfire continues to grow rapidly. The Rocky Canyon fire has already burned about 13,000 acres since it started on Friday evening, and right now crews are urging others living near the fire to be ready to evacuate if necessary. The fire is still 0% contained, and officials believe it is human-caused. Taking a look at your money at this moment, we've got red across the board. The Dow Jones is down 99 points. The S&P 500 is down 4 points. And the NASDAQ is down 94 points. The price of oil, however, up $3.22 a barrel, bringing it to a total of $81 a barrel and 40 cents. Coming up, we've finally got a cool down on the way. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:02.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
I'm not one to say I told you so, but I switched to Pure Talk over a year ago, and ever since, I've been telling people there's no better wireless company out there. Well, a few months ago, a massive survey was conducted. 123,000 people were asked to rate their wireless carrier in 4 categories: coverage, support, data, and overall value. Well, the results are in. Guess which wireless company was the only wireless company to get 5 stars in every category? Yeah, Pure Talk. 5 stars, every category. To celebrate, Pure Talk is offering the first 3 months of any plan for just $15 a month, including their top-tier unlimited plan. No contract, no commitment, just a very inexpensive way to test drive the only American wireless company with 5 stars in every category. Just dial pound 250, say micro, and Pure Talk's U.S. customer service will take it from there. Again, pound 250 micro. And yes, I told you so.
Stolen Voices of Dole Valley, a gripping new 9-part investigative podcast about a serial killer you've probably never heard of, Warren Forrest, a sadistic predator who prowled the Pacific Northwest in the early 70s. He hid behind the deeds of Ted Bundy, and he's only been convicted of 2 murders, but is suspected of many more. Since the release of Stolen Voices of Dole Valley, a witness identified in the podcast could lead investigators to the remains of Jamie Grissom.
He ran into the woods. He said he stumbled. As he fell down, he looks up and sees the body of a young woman.
And now the FBI is testing forensic evidence that had been collecting dust for decades. This cold case is now red hot. Binge the entire season of Stolen Voices of Dole Valley right now, wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the latest breaking news.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. You deserve to love where you bank. Here's Cormac Bone.
Still some extra delays westbound on the 201 freeway at 8000 West. Due to a crash, they are now just in the right shoulder there, so it's just a little more slow than usual. Where else we have delays is in the usual places. Eastbound on 2100 North in Lehigh, some scattered slowdowns from Redwood Road over to I-15. But on I-15, you won't see any delays, both directions between Ogden and Provo. I'm Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
Highs are going to be in the 90s until Thursday, when it takes a dive into the 80s finally with a 60% chance of rain. That rain's going to carry all the way through to the weekend with about a 30 to 20% chance on Saturday and Sunday. Right now, though, it's 90 degrees and partly cloudy in downtown Salt Lake City. I'm Cameron Elliott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So I read a really interesting poll this morning. This is from Reuters. It said more than 60%, in fact, it was 66% of respondents said there should be more oversight of social media companies. So we want to do our own poll this segment. As we chat about this story, text us 57500. Let us know what you think. Should there be more oversight of social media companies? And if so, who should do it? Greg, what do you think?
I'm surprised that 33% would say no. To me, that seems like, obvious that there should be some more oversight into social media companies. And I'll say this, just to back off of that a tiny bit. There is not a presumption, but at least an idea that sometimes social media companies are just a conduit for people to express their opinions and their views. And that, therefore, there should be some First Amendment, maybe lack of oversight.
It's supposed to be like the public square, yeah.
But that hasn't been how it's worked out. That's not what's going on. That's not why New Mexico just slammed
Yeah.
Meta with a
$587 million, if I remember the number
right,
right.
plus 375 from
Right.
the jury. So we're up close to $1 billion because they haven't had that oversight. So I guess to me that I would have expected. Now 67% is 2/3. That's great. I would have expected something like 80 or 90%.
Well, that's a supermajority pretty much, right?
Right.
So it's interesting to me, and we already have our first text responder. This is Andy. He says, yes, more oversight. I'd want the government to do it, but knowing how lawmakers can get paid off by big companies, I wouldn't trust them to do it right. So
and that's how it started. That's
Right.
how it started. The social media companies really had strong lobbyists.
They
had
still
that,
do.
that legislation
Mhm.
that still,
Yeah.
I should know the name of it, that allows for the presumption of the First Amendment,
Mhm.
that they actually limited and sort of shielded some social media companies from lawsuits for their content.
Right.
Of course, that didn't work out too well in New Mexico.
Well,
but
so the I think the origins of that was exactly what you were saying. Is originally people thought social media was the public square, right? So you can say things on social media, like if you went down to the corner, literally stood on a
Right.
soapbox and shared your opinion, right? So if somebody took what you were saying while you were standing on your soapbox in the public square and they went and did something bad, like they shot somebody, then you couldn't hold them accountable for somebody else's actions. And I think that's where the genesis came from that law. But we've learned so much about algorithms and how they target people and how the ads are targeting people, which is what happened with the New Mexico lawsuit. So I think that's a super it's an evolving field, and I
Right.
think that's the issue.
I think that's the issue as it relates to oversight.
Yeah.
Is, well, publishing thought, allowing
Right.
people a forum is great.
Right.
Algorithms where you're targeting certain groups,
Yeah.
where you're publishing information that could lead to harm, especially by our young people,
Yeah.
is an entirely different question. Now, adults, we're subject to whatever. If we read something and act on it, that's because we're
Well, there's been marketing, right?
Right.
I mean, you remember late night ads, buy now and we'll send you two, right?
right.
Or the marketing campaigns where you would get magazines because people knew consumer behavior. But look, we asked on Facebook that same question. And Barbara said, it depends on what oversight actually means.
Right.
And then says, most people agree platforms need better data privacy or protections for kids. But there's a big difference between holding tech companies accountable and then having the government monitor or control online speech or the news. Broad regulation often creates as many problems with free speech and privacy as it solves.
I like Barbara. That's smart. That makes a lot of sense. And, actually people are weighing in on this a lot more than I thought.
Well, Jean says, not the government.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know who it would be. I mean, unless they're not going to regulate themselves, or maybe they can create some sort of commission. But again, that's going to be the government. But she's right. I mean, because our government authorities are so compromised by lobbyists and that type of thing that they're probably not going to put guardrails on.
That's a really good question, right? And so the Reuters article, they found 66%. We also, that same number said that they would support laws that require social media companies to use age verification tools to keep kids from under age 16 from accessing their platforms. Support was highest among Republicans, believe it or not, with 74% backing that idea, age verification. So, of course, Utah's involved with, they passed a law and they're being sued. Social media companies are suing the states that are trying to put these in place. But there are countries also that have implemented complete bans.
I like this take by Courtney. She says, nope, the last thing we need are 1 billion more oversight committees staffed by people who don't use it. The government can't even run itself.
Right?
Pretty good point.
So look, in Reuters, they talked with a 60-year-old man named James from Tennessee who voted for Donald Trump. He said he mostly wants the U.S. government to have a smaller role, but cracking down on social media companies is an exception. Somebody's got to do it, he said. Is it the government's job? I don't want it to be, but I think maybe it should be.
You would almost think, and this wasn't part of the question, but it may be part of the answer, that artificial intelligence, there should be some level of regulation so that people have the right to know that what they're seeing is created by AI, I think. And maybe that's a regulation that should go into place at some point.
So we've tried that, right? We've tried that in Utah. You know who blocked it? The White House.
Right.
The White House blocked it, and they said, we don't want states making rules that regulate AI. So I'll say this, too, about the Reuters poll. They also asked the question about do you think social media is addictive for children? 85% say yes.
Sure it is.
And a similar share think its use can be harmful for their mental health. That is really, really high. Those are really high numbers, right? So people are recognizing it can be harmful for kids. People think somebody, and maybe the government, probably the government, should be the one to help regulate that. But we're kind of, I think, stuck in a little bit of a quagmire where, first of all, people love using their social media, so that they personally don't want to be restricted. But second of all, you get into those same questions that you and our texters have had about, well, if it's the government, what happens when they're influenced by lobbying organizations who can dump tens of millions of dollars into re-election campaigns, for example?
I mean, I don't go on social media a lot because I'm just too old. But when I do, I would say this. In my limited experience, about a third of the posts and information I see on social media are just flat untrue. I mean, there are just so many things that you see and you're like going, do people actually believe that? And unfortunately they do, but you can see things about, I don't know, I want to go down this road, cures for things and things you can do and, you know, ideas that I'm just like, I hope people don't take that seriously. Unfortunately, they do. So to me, the regulation is completely underutilized.
I really like this comment from Facebook. Adamari, I'm not sure if that's how you say their name, but they say not government necessarily, but better policies written by a third party in the interest of the consumer and not the company. And then this, I'm down for a real social media, and they capitalize all of those words, where only verified individual people are allowed a single account. No business, no personas, no one person with 80 different accounts, and no bots.
Yeah, what a great idea.
Right.
Probably never going to happen.
But
it makes sense. And you know, I think that's how some of these social media platforms started, is thinking that's what they were going to do. You know, let's have people chat, share ideas, like a platform, like a soapbox, whatever you want to call it. But it's become much more than that, and it's because these platforms make so much money. So they're beholden to some of their advertisers and some of the people that are really trying to influence young people.
So Debbie, one of our texters, said, yes, more oversight, but she thinks an independent group needs to be appointed by another independent group, and they should have no ties with the people who are running these companies.
Genius.
Right?
Liked her senator. Well, next up on Inside Sources, I thought it was an interesting conversation. I'm glad we had a lot of people chiming in because a lot of those statements were really very, very helpful. We want to talk about the reflecting pool, and the president has finally admitted that the reflecting pool issues may have been caused by the contractor problems, and at the same time, he's trying to fire Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook again, even though the Supreme Court blocked that earlier attempt. We're going to talk about these and other things when we come back after this.
1-877 Cars for Kids, KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today. 1-877 Cars for Kids, KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Ready to get rid of that old car? Donate it to Cars for Kids. Call 877-CARS-4-KIDS to speak to a friendly live agent. Donation is super easy, and your car can be picked up as soon as tomorrow. Go to carsforkids.org now, or call 877-CARS-4-KIDS to donate your car today.
1-877 Cars for Kids, KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Did you know you can donate real estate too? Go to carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K.
What keeps you up at night? Do you wonder if what you've saved will be enough? If your money will go as far as you plan? Or whether your retirement will look the way you imagine? What worries you? Everyone's concern is different, but ignoring it won't make it disappear. This is Ron Paul. You may not be able to predict what comes next, but you can take steps now to diversify your savings with precious metals before uncertainty becomes urgency. My friends at Birch Gold Group will send you a free info kit explaining how gold can help diversify your IRA or 401k. Just text the word SECURE to the number 989898. There's no cost and no obligation. Just free information to help you consider your option. Take the first step with Birch Gold. Text the word SECURE to the number 989898.
How are Utah schools weighing the benefits and risks of AI?
It levels the playing field for our learners.
But for one student, it gave dangerous advice.
He'd asked the chatbot, what should I do? And AI told him to punch the kid in the face.
With each district writing its own rules, the answers could change from one classroom to the next.
We need to put into place as many guardrails and protocols as we can.
Teaching with Tech. AI in Class, tonight at 10 on KSL 5.
The energy, the roar, moments you'll always remember. Next season, Jaren Jackson Jr. is hunting blocks. Laurie Markkinen is getting buckets. And Ace is just getting started. Don't just watch Jazz basketball. Experience every moment. 2026-27 season tickets are on sale now. Full and half-season packages available. Plus exclusive benefits like arena discounts and player events. Are you in? Join the climb today. UtahJazz.com or call 801-355-DUNK.
Why settle for a basic night out when all tickets for Utah Symphony and Utah Opera performances are now on sale? And for a very limited time, premium main floor seats to most performances are $29 or less. Enjoy splurge-worthy nights without the splurge with events like Rossini's Cinderella with the Utah Opera, Hocus Pocus in concert, and Saint-Saëns Organ Symphony. Don't wait. Prices go up after August 15th. More at usuo.org/August.
Any Hour Services can make sure your AC keeps you cool this summer. Whether you need a tune-up, repair, or just a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
All the talks we've had over the years, including what you've told me about not using alcohol and other drugs, they stick with me. And believe it or not, they really do make a difference, especially at times that matter most.
Hey, want a drink?
No thanks, I'm good. So thank you, Dad, for talking and preparing me for what's ahead.
Thank you for talking.
For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
911, tell me exactly what happened.
My son and his wife and their 2 children haven't responded.
Susan Powell disappeared on a snowy morning in 2009.
And I said, Josh, where are you? You need to get home.
And her husband will never be held accountable.
Your wife is missing, Josh.
Yeah, but
And you want to think about it for a couple of days?
I'd had this overwhelming feeling that he had done something to her already.
I'm Dave Cawley, host of the podcast Cold.
Then he starts making phone calls to Susan's phone.
Hello, Susan. We are on our way back.
It's the deepest of deep dives into this tragic tale of abuse.
Where was Josh when Susan disappeared?
I don't know.
Of one mother's desperate attempt to escape.
This is me, covering all my bases.
Help prevent it from happening again.
Our focus has and continues to be finding Susan.
Listen and learn by following Cold wherever you get your podcasts.
And expanded Inside Sources.
Well, our president is now admitting that there was some contractor error during the recent renovation of the reflecting pool, and that maybe that was part of the problem, not so much that somebody took a knife through it and cut it all off.
I'm just shocked. I'm shocked. Actually, I'm a little shocked that he would admit that he was wrong.
Yeah, and
so,
of course they charged some poor guy with that crime. The
more
former
than one, former Olympian
canoeist. I mean, that had to be awful.
Yeah.
But he did admit his error. The president did. He's now working around some other things. And we talked last week about the president had issued another executive order which tended to chip away at birthright citizenship. We're learning again now he's trying to fire Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook again.
So that was another Supreme Court ruling about that. And so we have the expert with us, Kelsey Dallas, editor at SCOTUS blog, to join us. Kelsey, I saw you posting about this on social media saying the Supreme Court's had a day. I'm paraphrasing. But tell us what's happening with this, what the Supreme Court decided, and what's happening right now.
Yeah, it's a very interesting moment where the court is in its summer recess, and yet we're kind of trapped in an infinite loop reliving the decisions from the 2025-26 term because the Trump administration is now rolling out its responses to those decisions. So in the case we're talking about today, it was called Trump v. Cook. The court was actually addressing sort of the case in an emergency posture. And what that means is that they were considering whether Lisa Cook, a member of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, could be removed from her post while her legal challenge to that removal or firing attempt was moving forward. So it wasn't sort of the ultimate say on what was going to happen in that case. It was just saying, has the Trump administration made a good enough case of sort of what evidence it has on its side that she will be booted out of her position right now as these continuing challenges move forward. And on June 29th, that was the second to last day of the term, the court held 5-4 that she cannot be removed at this time, that she could continue in her position. And the decision sort of boils down to the thought that the Trump administration needed to provide Lisa Cook with notice and some opportunity to respond to the claims it was making against her and sort of push back against why she was being fired. And so what we see now is the Trump administration trying to restart the firing process with that opportunity to respond.
It does seem, Kelsey, that the president did very, very well with the Supreme Court this year and last, and that in terms of immunity, in terms of executive authority. And so to me, it seems like, man, you won so much. Why do you have to fight the few that you seemingly lost? Is there any sense of frustration up there with SCOTUS in terms of, hey, we can't do anything right?
I'm glad you asked about this because I actually just filed a story this morning looking at Republican views on the Supreme Court because in late July, Gallup found that the Supreme Court's approval rating had dropped to a record low and that the recent drop was actually driven by Republicans, not Democrats, because Democrats have been unhappy with the Supreme Court for several years now. So as you noted, you're looking at the decisions from the Supreme Court and saying, what exactly are Republicans frustrated about? Like Trump has succeeded in a number of important cases, including one related to Trump v. Cook, where he was allowed to remove Rebecca Slaughter from her position. And the court said the president has this broad removal power for heads of many different independent agencies. But the issue, I believe, and Gallup highlighted this, is that his losses have been on the issues he cares about most, tariffs, birthright citizenship, the case from the winter about deploying the National Guard internally to help with immigration issues. And Lisa Cook might be sort of third or fourth on that list, but I think that there was still an incredible amount of anger that the court was interfering with this plan to get her off of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors and appoint someone different.
So, Kelsey, I want to ask you about the most recent thing with Cook, and because as I understand it, and I'm looking at SCOTUS blog, is she's given the opportunity to respond now, but the issue hasn't changed. So the Trump administration is accusing her of mortgage fraud. She says, I didn't commit mortgage fraud. Here are the receipts to prove it. But they don't seem to accept that. So it doesn't feel to me like there's maybe a whole lot of difference here.
That's a good note. And I was thinking about that as I prepared for our conversation. What happens if Cook and her attorneys provide this information where they say she was honest with bankers when she was applying for mortgages? She did not sort of try to mislead them about designating two different residences as her primary residence. And so what could the Trump administration do then? And I think that the Trump administration could move forward with an additional attempt to fire her and just start a brand new round of debate before a federal district court and then an appeals court and then the Supreme Court. And the only thing we can really say is that the Supreme Court may have focused its ruling on this narrow sense of whether she had been given an opportunity to respond. but the court also signaled a strong support for Fed independence. And so I think they would hesitate to allow this sort of disputed firing to take place.
It seems to me, Kelsey, as an attorney, when I look at some of these opinions from the Supreme Court, I'd be interested in your opinion, as it relates to birthright citizenship, as it relates to Lisa Cook, as it relates to tariffs, that the Supreme Court does often give well, we might really want to reconsider this if you would do X. I mean, I'm thinking about birthright citizenship, and he sort of jumped on the X in numerous times with his recent edict that he had last week. Maybe with Lisa Cook the same way, maybe with tariffs. But it seems like the Supreme Court gives him a little bit of a hint of, well, you might be able to get your agenda if you're willing to do something a little differently.
Yeah, I think it's fair to point that out, but I don't know if it comes from a place that someone hearing that information might assume, which is that the court is trying to provide some sort of roadmap to an eventual win. I'm not sure that's the case. I think it's just the case that the Supreme Court often lands at pretty narrow holdings and tries to assure both parties that they have been heard and sort of outline exactly where they went wrong for the party that lost. You have to remember that in all of these decisions, 9 people have to come to some sort of agreement. Well, it might boil down to only 5 people, but that can be quite challenging. And so the grounds that they agree on may only apply in these very specific circumstances at this very specific moment. And so even those 5 people in the majority in Trump v. Cook might not be willing to say at this point, the president can never remove a Federal Reserve governor, or Lisa Cook's job is safe forever. And so they just are always in the process of leaving the door open to future challenges. And that's why I started at the beginning by saying that this summer has felt quite odd, where we're just relitigating the same issues over and over again after the term has ended. But really, that kind of is life on the Supreme Court beat, is that you return to the same issue again and again and take different slices at it, because at least in the Roberts Court era, the past 20 years or so, the court has just sort of moved so deliberately with every issue.
So, Kelsey, can I ask you a logistical question? And we are almost out of time. But first of all, when is Lisa Cook off the Board of Governors? And second, if you know that, and second, how long might this process take? Because Trump is entering the last 2 years of his presidency.
I don't know the answer to your first question. I apologize. Okay. I would just say, as I feel like I often say when I appear on your show, these cases move much slower than you assume, that it takes months for there to be sort of an initial decision at the district court level, and then weeks or months after that before it jumps up to the Supreme Court. It can be a matter of weeks if it goes to what's called the emergency docket and the court is asked to very quickly decide what to do. But even then, as they did in Trump v. Cook, they can say, oh, never, hold off. We're going to hear arguments on this. The court can really sort of determine how this all plays out. And Holly, I think there's something to that. The idea that a lot of these issues are now getting within a time range that's okay, Trump will be out of office, so let's just sort of go slowly so that maybe this can all disappear.
All right. Thanks, Kelsey. Kelsey Dallas, managing editor for SCOLAS blog. And up next on Inside Sources, it's time for another edition of Ask the Attorney. A man sentenced to death here in Utah twice for killing Joyce Yost is back in court as prosecutors push for the death penalty again. So, Greg, I have a bunch of questions for you. Stay with us.
It's 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Cameron Elliott. KSL's top national story this hour from ABC News. A family tragedy in the water not far from the Statue of Liberty. We're hearing new details on the boating tragedy in the New York harbor that killed a young mother and her 5-month-old daughter. 12 people survived the wreck, but 27-year-old Sarah Sanchez and her baby did not. Here's ABC's Hannah Battah.
Sanchez's husband, Andres Garcia, survived. His employer tells our New York station the couple was on that boat celebrating a friend's birthday. Their 6-year-old son was home with a babysitter. An online fundraising site set up by Garcia's colleagues says the young father must now find the strength to move forward and be there for their son.
In other national news, the Jackson, Mississippi Police Department are confirming the identification of a woman found hanging from a tree behind a vacant home to be Tasia Fortune, and they are investigating. Fortune's parents, Christy Spivey and Antonio Fortune, spoke with ABC News, saying their daughter did not take their own life.
Tasia was not suicidal. Tasia always let us know that if something happened to her, that she was going to fight. You know, Tasia loved life. Tasia loved living life. Like, there's no way that she took her own life.
The results of the autopsy are still pending. In local news, Cedar City has put an outdoor watering ban in place through much of the week, but not because of the drought. The city says that a pump failed, putting a strain on the city's water system, and they're asking everybody to avoid watering until Thursday night, which will give them time to make repairs and to refill the water supplies. Taking a look at your money at this moment, we have red across the board. The Dow Jones is down 128 points. That's 0.25%. The NASDAQ is down 84 points. That's 0.3%. And oil is up $3.36 a barrel. It's now $81.54 a barrel. Coming up, we're finally getting a cool-off. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:32.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Some of the most meaningful jewelry is the jewelry we never wear. It sits tucked away in a drawer. A ring from a grandmother, a pendant from years gone by. Pieces filled with stories, but not part of your everyday life. Duke's Jewelers believes those pieces deserve more. For over 75 years, Duke's Jewelers has helped families reimagine heirloom jewelry, transforming what once was into something you'll love wearing today and pass down tomorrow. Whether it's resetting a stone, redesigning a ring, or creating something entirely new, Duke's Jewelers will guide you through every step, right there in the store. And if you have jewelry that no longer fits your story, Duke's Jewelers also buys gold, offering a simple, transparent way to turn it into something meaningful again. Bring in what you have and create something you'll never want to take off. Duke's Jewelers on Main Street in Springville, where your story continues.
Everywhere you look, things are getting more expensive. But at Consumer Cellular, we're lowering the price for those 50 and up. Now you can get unlimited everything for just $35 a line. That's $35 a month for unlimited talk, text, and data. Switch to the carrier ranked #1 in network coverage and customer satisfaction and get unlimited everything for just $35 a month. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit Consumer Cellular online or in-store today. Price includes $5 credit for autopay and e-billing. Taxes and fees apply. Data speeds reduced after 35 gigabytes. Rankings done by 2025 ACSI survey.
Hey, it's Flo here to say drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds.
Nice! With my new savings, I'll get some hiking gear. It'll be great for my outdoor era.
I don't know if it counts as an era if you just buy stuff.
I got a cute hiking backpack. It's an outdoor era.
Well, you only bought one thing. I don't think it's an era.
Well, I think we're in a agree to disagree era.
Yeah, sure, you're probably right. Anyway, with the money you could save by switching to Progressive, you can afford to switch to other things in life. It's
my savings era.
Also, everything you do is not an era.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
I'm really interested to hear about how your parents talk to you at home, and how do you think they can kind of break through to you?
It's just to talk about it. It's just seriously it's going to be awkward at first. But if you keep repeating it over and over again, it's just going to feel natural.
Keep going, and soon we'll just be able to talk about it.
Talking about mental health with your teens is the power of we in action. Visit intermountainhealth.org/teen mental health.
The truck just arrived at Gillette Services. And so did the savings. Gillette has a load of new Carrier air conditioners for an amazing price. Get a new Carrier air conditioner starting at just $34.95. That's $1,500 off while inventory lasts. Save big with a trusted family-owned company and enjoy expert installation from Utah's largest Carrier dealer and 8-time President's Choice Award winner. Call 385-273-6628 or visit GilletteServices.com before these truckload savings are gone.
Carrier, turn to the experts. A Carrier factory authorized dealer.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Learn how to save more this summer at UCCU.com. Here's Cormac Bone.
Roadways looking really good for your midday commute. Maybe a little slow southbound I-15 at 7200 south, but definitely not too terrible. And otherwise, it's just regular delays to look out for. Maybe a little heavier westbound on the 201 freeway in Magna at 8000 West, though that crash is still only just in the right shoulder. And you've got some congestion on SR 193 at 2000 West in Syracuse, and as you approach the West Davis corridor. I'm Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
We got a 30% chance of pop-up storms today with a high of 97. 96 tomorrow, then we start to cool off, and we're going to be in the 80s starting on Thursday. Right now, though, it's 91 degrees and partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. I'm Cameron Elliott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Douglas Lovell, the man convicted and sentenced to death twice for killing Joyce Yost in 1985, I think, is back in court today. Both of his previous sentences were overturned, even though the conviction held, which is totally confusing to me. But prosecutors are trying again. So, Greg, it's time for another Ask the Attorney. Can you remind our listeners first about the case, though?
Yeah, so this happened in 1984. He was accused of killing Joyce Yost at 1985, 39-year-old Ogden resident, and now she was a witness against him on a sexual assault case, and the allegation was that he killed her to prevent her from testifying against him. And that was a case that's a little bit unusual because, like you alluded to, he won the appeal on his sentence, not on his conviction.
Interesting.
So in Utah, we've talked about this a little bit. In death penalty cases, you have a bifurcated hearing. You have two trials,
right?
Guilt phase and penalty phase, and a jury hears both of those trials and decide. It's the only type of case in the criminal world where the jury decides the punishment. In the civil world, they can issue a judgment in terms of damages and that type of thing. But in a criminal case, you have is this person guilty or not? The jury decides guilt, and then they say, okay, come on back in a couple weeks and let's decide what the appropriate punishment should be.
Okay.
So the guilt part of his conviction has withstood appeals.
Wow.
That is set in stone. So it's a little different than the Douglas Carter case down in Utah County, where they're going, his conviction should be set aside because the prosecutors did some things they shouldn't have done. The police hid some evidence, and his attorneys didn't catch it. So start over. In Lovell's case, the question became what happened at his sentencing, with his penalty phase. And twice, the attorneys at the sentencing phase made errors for which the judge said, you know what, he didn't get a fair sentencing hearing.
Wow.
Because sentencing is a whole different animal than a guilt phase. If you think about, did a person commit a crime or not, that's guilt. The jury says, yeah, we think he did. Sentencing is, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
And so the crime itself isn't as important as the person, the mental health of the person, the education of the person. And the crime does matter, and especially egregious crime, but the jury's already heard that. They already know what happened in the crime. Maybe there's some things that didn't come out in the criminal part, the guilt part, that the jury didn't hear about, this specifically egregious. But then you open up the gates a little bit more for the sentencing, and you say, okay, jurors. And again, you get 12 jurors unanimously have to find that the punishment of the death penalty is appropriate over life without, beyond a reasonable doubt, unanimous satisfaction of all 12 jurors. So it's a hard burden.
So let me ask you then a follow-up question specifically on the jury. So this was a 1985 case. He got sentenced to death. They overturned the sentencing portion of it, and then they called another jury?
Correct.
But they didn't have to go through the whole trial thing. They must have had to lay out evidence or something, right? To say, okay, here's what we found.
Good point. Yes. Okay, that's exactly right. So they don't go back to the original 12 because who knows where they're going to be 40 years later, or maybe 20 years later when the first one was flipped over. Actually, it's been twice now. So you pick a new jury, and they're told, okay, he went to trial on this crime,
right?
And it was a death penalty case, and the jury decided that he was guilty. They don't say the death penalty case; it was a murder case. Right. The jury decided he's guilty. Your mission, should you decide to accept it, is to decide whether or not the penalty of death applies or whether life in prison. You have to assume that he's guilty. because the jury found that.
Right.
You're not here to decide guilt or innocence.
Okay.
You're here to decide what we should do. So we're going to tell you about the crime, and then we're going to tell you about why you should. The prosecutor's going to say it was really egregious.
Right.
He's had prior
Aggravating
convictions.
circumstances,
Exactly. And the defense is going to say he had a rough upbringing. He was out of his head on drugs, whatever it is. And frankly, in a case like this, the jury, and I don't know if I could be quoted on this, but I'm going to say it anyway, should be able to consider how he's done in prison for 45 years. You know what I mean? Like, is he been a good prisoner? I think that could be relevant because it certainly is during how you do pending trial. So, but his death penalty, his sanction, his punishment has been flipped over twice, so it's the third time.
So,
now, go ahead.
I was just going to say, for me, that seems highly unusual that
Very.
you would overturn a death penalty sentencing 2 times. That just seems really unusual.
Yeah, so sometimes the defense will say, well, we really want to bring in some evidence about mental health issues or some, childhood trauma issues, and the judge might say, that's not really relevant. And so another judge will say, you probably should have brought that in. In this case, I think there was one part where the state argued some sort of religious, argument about why eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, and I'm sort of surmising a little bit, and the court's like, well, you don't really bring religion into penalty phase. I mean, you can a little bit. I'm overstating that, but they may have said some things that were unduly prejudicial to the jury. You know what I mean? And so the appellate court said, you know what, you crossed a line there. That's not something a jury should have heard about, something they should have been made aware of. And it's an inappropriate argument anyway. I mean, stick with the facts and not so much your hyperbole about, what.
So what's happening today then?
So,
and by the way, he's 68 years old. So.
Right. What's happening today is this. It's like the death penalty cases we have in Utah. It's hard to find death-qualified lawyers.
Sure.
I'm a death-qualified lawyer, but I work here, so I don't do those cases anymore. But anyway, so they're trying to find him a fourth set of lawyers that can handle this case, because even though it's only the penalty phase, they have to be death qualified.
Sure. Yeah.
So the judge is actually they're soliciting bids, and for that. So but the case has to proceed. So the judge is having a hearing. Where are we on this case? Let's get some new attorneys on board, and they'll probably get that set, and then they'll schedule a trial. It's not really a trial, but it's a penalty phase to a trial, and say, okay, let's give the attorney 6 months to get up to speed, get your experts, get your forensic people or your psychologists, psychiatrists, that type of thing, other people that might still be around that can talk about great guy, bad guy, whatever, and schedule a trial probably sometime in mid-2027 and hear it again.
So today is really just trying to find and appoint another set of attorneys, defense attorneys.
Right. And it's a tough thing for the family. I mean, I feel bad for the victim's family, although I say this a lot. I don't know that it's much consolation. He is in prison. He's not going anywhere, and he's probably not going to go anywhere. I will say this also, as a person who's not a huge fan of the death penalty, having done it from both sides, 41 years is kind of a long time. So maybe at some point you just say, okay, let's let him spend the rest of his life in prison. Anyway, so enough of that. I think that's what's happened on the Douglas Lovell case. When we come back on Inside Sources, a massive donation from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to help women and children. Holly got to attend a special event for this over the weekend about it, and she'll tell us more in our final segment of today's show. Stay with us.
Hi, this is Doug Wright, and as we move into August, I can't help but look back into July. That's where we celebrated Dee's birthday, which, by the way, is a month-long celebration. We call it the Dee Fest. We had every adult in the family there at Ruth's Chris in downtown Salt Lake City at 275 Southwest Temple, and it was just a delight. The atmosphere, the service, and, of course, the food. Incredible. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. You can always count on Ruth's Chris. And then, of course, Hotel Park City is a wonderful place, especially at this time of year when it's so hot down in the valley, to head up into the mountains and enjoy that perfect meal. Let everybody else do the work. And you and your family, you and your friends, just kick back and enjoy the perfect meal. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, 275 Southwest Temple in the heart of downtown Salt Lake City, or up in our beautiful Utah mountains at Hotel Park City. It's Ruth's Chris Steakhouse.
More than 50 million Americans suffer from a form of mental illness.
And Utah isn't immune, with nearly 1 in 3 people dealing with anxiety, depression, or another form of mental illness.
But there's hope. We can all take action to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe.
That's why KSL has teamed with the Huntsman Mental Health Foundation to bring you hope and help you thrive.
It's Healthy Mind Matters.
Find out more at healthymindmatters.com.
Progressive knows you've got plenty of things to worry about.
What time does the kids' practice end? How long has that check engine light been on? Are takeout containers microwave safe?
So the last thing you should have to worry about is what to do if something unexpected happens on the road. That's why if you're ever in a major accident, Progressive's accident response can detect it and send help. It's just one less thing to worry about.
How long does chicken last in the fridge?
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Limited availability in California. Driver is responsible for emergency and towing charges not covered by the policy.
Sleep Number's new collections are designed to adapt to the changing nature of your life and your sleep needs. Whether it's the personalized comfort of the Comfort Mode mattress, the targeted pressure relief of the Comfort Next mattress, or the Climate Collection that actively cools or warms to help you fall asleep and stay asleep.
And now, get early access to our biggest sale of the year. Save 25% on the new Comfort Next Luxe for a limited time. Only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. When it comes to protecting Utah's workforce, WCF Insurance helps keep businesses running smoothly and employees supported when injuries happen. Their local approach and community roots make getting help and care straightforward. CEO and President Matthew Lyon joins us with more.
At WCF Insurance, we've been serving Utah for over 100 years, and we're proud to still call this place home. We live here, we work here, and we're deeply invested in the people and businesses that make our communities thrive. What began as a workers' compensation specialist has expanded into a commercial lines partner. Business owners policies, commercial auto, and more, so companies can grow with confidence through one carrier that knows Utah and the Mountain West. People matter is our North Star. Beyond policies, we put that belief to work. Through charitable giving and thousands of employee volunteer hours, we invest in education, housing, safety, and community resilience. Whether you're running a family business in southern Utah or growing a company on the Wasatch Front, we're here to help you protect what matters most and build a stronger future together. Learn more at WCF.com.
Through thoughtful workers' compensation solutions and community-focused initiatives, WCF Insurance helps Utah workers recover and thrive. Combined with charitable projects and volunteer efforts, their work strengthens workplaces and neighborhoods, leaving a meaningful impact across the state. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Everything to my back is dark.
High in the alpine wilderness.
Really ugly clouds coming over from the north.
A place
the ridgeline is imposing, the escarpments, the drops.
where survival,
It's dark now. I have nothing.
is never certain.
This is not good.
My name's Dave Cawley, and I'm the host of a podcast called Uinta Triangle. It's about the disappearance of an Australian hiker named Eric.
Our conclusion and that of the sheriff is that the mountains have decided to keep him.
Come retrace Eric's footprints with me.
You have done this walk too, but this is your backyard.
Did he really make a wrong turn, or did he decide that he was done?
He is not the first or last person to vanish in this remote region.
It was haunting to see the photos. I mean, really.
Find and follow the podcast series Uinta Triangle. That's Uinta, spelled U-I-N-T-A, Triangle, wherever you get your podcasts. All episodes out now.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
Hey, Holly, I wanted to follow up with you on what you did on Friday afternoon. Apparently, General Relief Society President Camille N. Johnson announced an additional $65 million from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to continue work for the Caring for Women and Children Initiative Consortia. You were there and got to enjoy that. So tell our listeners what it was and what it meant.
So, first of all, I just need to set up what has happened. There's a 5-year project, I guess you can call it, where the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is working with 7 different organizations. They're focusing on 2 areas of the world, Asia and Africa. But what they're doing is they're trying to be, I think I've heard this by the Wiseman Group, a force multiplier. What they're trying to do is saying we don't have to duplicate things that are already working, right? So some people have distribution systems that work really well. We're going to partner with these different organizations. And so what they announced, of course, what President Johnson announced was this additional $65 million for the coming year to keep working on these projects that benefit women and children. But I want to tell you some of the things that they have done so far. They have impacted 52 million children and women across the world. And their goals were, I think, something like 12 million over 5 years. They've impacted 52 million women and children in the first 3 years of this project. So they screened 5 million women and children for malnutrition, and then they were able to train moms in nutrition best practices. Some of those moms who were trained, they went to mother groups. There were 2.6 million women who were trained in mother-to-mother groups on nutrition best practices. So they've also done prenatal care. 375,000 pregnant moms have received prenatal care that wouldn't have otherwise. 357 newborns were resuscitated at birth, and that's one of the projects, is teaching neonatal resuscitation. We just take it for granted in the United States, right? Yeah. But in a lot of places, if a baby's born not breathing, people didn't know what to do. And they were able to train these initial primary care providers how to help a baby breathe when it's born unresponsive.
So have you been familiar with this Caring for Women and Children initiative?
Yeah, absolutely.
In the past?
I'm a big fan, right?
Yeah,
I'm a big
so.
fan.
Yeah, for good reason, it sounds like.
Yeah. And President Johnson, I think, has really been amazing. She's trained as an attorney, as you know, but she just is the kind of as the spearhead person, maybe. Anyway, she and her board they have really worked together, and they have found these organizations. And so, at this event on Friday, not only did President Johnson speak, but they did basically 45 minutes of a panel where multiple leaders of these organizations also spoke. They talked about the hope that they feel. There was a man there who their organization, it's a lowercase I and then DE. They really focus on entrepreneurship, but he shared that he sees hope every day because as you change one woman's life, she changes her family's life, which changes the community, which was super impactful. And then I think at the end, President Johnson said, look, this is 52 million ones, one person who was touched 52 million different times. And then what she encouraged people was to go recognize the one, because she said there are people right in our own community who women don't know how to read. Children they're going to bed hungry right in our own communities. And so you don't have to look at this and say, oh, gosh, well, the church has it handled. You can say, look, there's stuff I can do in my own community.
It just seems like a time when our country is backing off from helping people for financial reasons, that groups like the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are stepping up and saying, we've got it.
Yeah.
And that's a huge commitment. 12 high-need countries across 4 areas. I mean, what a wonderful event that must have been to attend.
I agree. And it's just, it's super inspirational. So I love that kind of stuff.
Seriously.
All right. I have some fun facts for you. Today is National S'mores Day. So if people were listening to the morning news, they talked about that. So s'mores. It's really the only time I eat marshmallows is if I make a s'more, right? Okay. Today is the 10th of August, and this is the day in 1776 that the word about the Declaration of Independence being signed finally reached London, right? So it took about a month to go across the ocean.
Yeah.
No, it takes a little bit.
Like, hey, what's up? What's going on over there?
We're just putting you on notice.
Yeah.
We're just telling you.
By the way, we're declaring our independence.
That's right. So it was also on this day in 1793, which it always blows my mind that it was that long ago, but the Louvre opened in Paris, 1793.
Really?
As a museum.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in 1846, so 50-ish years later, the Smithsonian Institution was created, right? So they've been around for a really long time. What is that, 180 years?
Yeah.
180 years this year.
Interesting. And it's huge. I've never been there. But
and it's a complex, right?
Yeah.
So it's multiple museums and things. So in 1874, Herbert Hoover was born. He became the 31st U.S. president. In 1921, on this day, FDR was stricken with a paralytic illness at a summer home. So people thought it was polio, but there does seem to be some indication now that it might have been Guillain-Barré syndrome. In any case, he ended up in a wheelchair, right? His legs stopped working.
Right.
So that was, this is the day he got sick in 1921. 1943, Adolf Hitler, not a nice person, watched Allied pilots be lynched. So again, not a nice person. Next guy, not a nice person. 1977, the son of Sam serial killer was arrested on this day.
Boy, that was
also not a nice
day.
person.
Right.
It was on this day in 1981 that 6-year-old Adam Walsh was found, and he was decapitated by the person who took him, if you remember that.
Yeah.
This one is interesting, and you might not have realized this, but it was in 1988. President Ronald Reagan signed a measure that provided $20,000 payments to still living Japanese Americans who were interned by their own government during World War II.
Retribution, right.
We made reparations.
Right, reparations, I should say,
It was also on this day in 1993 that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was sworn in as the second woman and the 107th justice to serve on the
What
U.S.
year?
Supreme Court. 1993.
Yeah, she served for a very long time.
She did. She
Probably
served for a
close
good
to
long
30
time.
years.
Yeah. And you know her famous quote of until there are 9. The rest of that quote is, for many, many, many years, there were 9 men on the court and nobody ever complained. So, and then finally, before
She's
you get
missed.
to your closing arguments, in 2019, this is the day Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his jail cell.
Oh, wow.
2019.
How long ago?
2019. It's been 7 years.
7 years. Wow.
Good old Jeff.
Still waiting. So, we talked about Douglas Lovell, a crime that occurred in the 80s. A week or two ago, maybe a month ago, we talked about Douglas Carter, death penalty case from the 1980s. And a couple months ago, we talked about Ralph Menzies' death penalty case from the 1980s. And there's more similarities than you might think. But I want to say this, just as an attorney who's practiced since those years. I mean, those are all about the time I started practicing law in 1982. We look at death penalty cases so different than other cases that had those 3 men been convicted of murder and had it not been the death penalty case, we wouldn't have talked about them. They wouldn't have had those appeals. They wouldn't have had those issues. They wouldn't have had their trial set aside. They would have all served life in prison without the possibility of parole, almost certainly. Now, I'm not saying that's the way we should go. What I'm saying is when you have somebody who's on death row, you are going to have appeals that will go constantly and without any break. And attorneys are actually assigned, I'm not one of them, but there are attorneys who are assigned just to do death penalty cases and to file appeals, and they continue to do it. And at the cost of flipping 2 of those over. In fact, even Menzies, they for a while set aside the penalty of death because of his dementia that had occurred during the 40 some odd years he'd been. And I'm just saying, I think all 3 of those men were convicted in the 80s. Carter, his whole conviction was set aside. That would have never occurred if it wasn't a death penalty case. He would have gone to prison and probably spent the rest of his life there. Lovell, they're challenging his penalty phase. Well, you don't have that in any other case. If he got life in prison without the possibility of parole, that's what he'd be doing. And so I'm not saying we need to revisit the death penalty. What I'm saying is that when you have something like that, when the consequences are so great and so, you're talking about taking a person's life, the appeals are never, ever, ever going to end. And that's a reality.
All right. Thanks for those closing arguments. An emergency alert sent in error and a fast-growing fire burning in the mountains of Morgan and Summit County. The latest on the fire's size and evacuations coming up on Utah's Noon News with